after mine, so it'll be fine. All right, I'm ready to go live when you are.
I think that might just be the delay on your... For me, it was all synced up.
Okay, cool.
But I'm pressing buttons now, so people can see things and hear things. They now know the unofficial mascot of the podcast is a squib.
I said, that's not a Gamorrean, that's... Oh, hey, guys.
That's my wife.
Who you calling? Who you calling Piggy?
Who you calling Mort?
Yeah.
Mort turned out to not be Mort. Anyways,
yeah.
Hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Tapcaf Transmissions. I think this is episode 8, 9?
Well, let's see. We've done... This is Rogue Squadron
book
X-Wing
6 in the exciting series X-Wing.
Yeah, so this is 8.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Wow.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Tapcaf Transmissions episode on Iron Fist, the 6th exciting book in the exciting X-Wing series. Last time we did have our special guest, Alex from Star Wars Explained, on to talk about Wraith Squadron. So this is really the second book in the Wraith Squadron trilogy within the X-Wing series.
Kind of a soft reboot, almost.
Yeah, so welcome to my cozy corner of the YouTubes, to my great co-host, Justin Eckhart's Ladder. Justin, how are you doing, Justin?
Hooray. Thanks for having me. Yeah, last time Alex caused a power outage, so I'm kind of happy he's gone. Wow. I mean, that's the only explanation for it. I've always had power all throughout the podcast, never had any issues.
That's actually, you've dropped connection in the previous episode, so maybe he's just sabotaging it so much it goes back in time.
Oh, yeah, okay. I thought you were going to blame me. You know what? That does seem more likely than something's going on my end.
No, it's standard podcast protocol to blame the guest for any problems that happen.
Especially afterwards when they're not there to defend themselves. I believe that's usually what's done.
So on this episode, in addition to talking about Iron Fist, we're just going to bash Alex for a few hours.
Few hours, I mean, yeah.
We did invite him to be on this episode and the next episode, but he said, and I quote, "Screw you guys, I'm never coming back on this stupid show again."
Yep. Then he said some things which we can't. I don't feel comfortable repeating.
Yeah.
No, to be honest though, I think he's just recovering from Dragon Con. He probably wouldn't have had time to do the reading and stuff.
Yeah, I believe that's where he was hosting a panel with the new Chewbacca actor. Yeah. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
But enough about him. He's not here. We're not plugging his stuff anymore. Subscribe to Star Wars Explained. Yeah, so we are going to be talking about X-Wing Iron Fist today, which, despite the title, is not actually the book in which Iron Fist gets destroyed, which was something that I had forgotten.
Yeah, well, that's not until Courtship.
But yeah, so any opening thoughts here? We start off with rebuilding Wraith Squadron after their losses in the last book.
Corey, I'm going to stop you right there. There's one thing that was bothering me throughout the entire book. And this is a pretty simple mistake that I don't think Aaron should have made at this point. He says they're making a jump to hyperspace, and they think they're going to Coruscant, but really they're going to Kuat. And Wedge says...
The core worlds.
Yes, the core worlds.
I have that written down, too. I was like, did I miss something?
He's like, they're going to be some surprised when they end up in the core worlds. But Coruscant is the core world. And I think by that point, too, there had already been an RPG guide called Coruscant and the Core Worlds. Oh, yeah, no, that came later. That came later.
I was kind of wondering about writing it down because I was like, I'm pretty sure this was already established. Yeah. And did I just misread something? Because, okay, I'm glad you had this same concern. Because I thought maybe I'm an idiot, but it turns out Wedge is actually the idiot. So
yeah, so that's really the only thing I can think about this podcast. So if we can manage to stretch and discussion over that entire line for 2 hours, I'll be happy.
There is one other error that I made last episode that I would like to issue a formal public apology for. I said during our discussion of Wraith Squadron that Lara Notzel, or Garapetathol, was actually a New Republic agent the whole time. I was wrong about that. She becomes much more of a focus in this book, and for whatever reason, I just had the timeline wrong on that. So I'd like to announce
you're a fake fan.
At this point that I am resigning as host of this episode of Tapcaf Transmissions. So, Justin, you are now in charge.
How about I'll take over next time?
Okay,
And
that's fair.
we can close this one out with your
so
help. Okay, so the first thing for me though is like we're getting to the point. I'm really bad with names. It's hard enough with like you have 12 different, like in the first 4 books, you know, you've got 12 fighter pilots plus the support staff or whatever. That's manageable. But by this point, you're throwing in a whole nother squadron. You've got some like Lara who've got 2 different names. And it's just
to be fair, her code name or her secret name, Lara, is only 1 letter off of her real name. So that'd be like if you had to come up with a secret identity and the first
Dustin.
name you come up, yeah, I'll be Dustin.
Deckhart's ladder.
Eckhart's footstool.
Exactly. But yeah, no, this book, I don't know, I thought it was really fun. Like, despite the fact that it's like probably one of the first books where they, in a meaningful way, like delve into like the psychology of some of the characters, especially Lara and Ton. But I don't know, there's also a lot of fun here. Like the Ton and Face stuff was really good in the last book, but I think it's taken to another level in this book. And same with the Wedge and Wes stuff. I think Wes is like such a fun character in this book, and he like really keeps it light. Like there's just so many like legitimately funny jokes in this, like whether it's Wedge like reacting to some BS that the squad's done, or like Wes just like throwing in, you know, little quips here and there. I don't know, it's just a really fun, enjoyable read. Usually, like, I don't know about you, but when I deal with these, I spend the first week, so like the rest of this week and next week, thinking about how I'm going to get started on the book early this time. Definitely get started on it early. Maybe like the Wednesday before, so I have a whole week. And then it gets to like the Saturday or the Sunday, and I'm like, damn, I'm probably not going to start this till Monday. For me, this week, I started this yesterday and basically just read it all in one sitting. And it was still really enjoyable. Still loved it. So that's a good sign, I think.
Yeah, I was actually reading this I started reading it on the train home because I went to visit my family last week, and it was something that only so far Plagueis and Back to War I kind of had, where I'd finished the book and then I just immediately wanted to start reading the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So I really enjoyed it. And there might be some never before seen stuff happening with our book rankings later. So stay tuned, everyone.
Well, now I'm interested.
Yeah, so
you should try maybe consider listening to the audiobook afterwards. Some of them are pretty crap. I mean, they're all really short. The audiobook for this one's like 2 hours 50 minutes. I kind of listen to it afterwards because it's kind of a nice way. It like hits all the key points. Basically, you're essentially reading the Wikipedia article.
Yeah.
But honestly, they're worth listening to just because of the sound effects. It'll be like, especially the old ones, they're so bad. It'll be like there was like there was laughter across the bridge, and they'll like throw in a sound of like clearly children laughing.
Oh God.
I just finished, but even in the new ones, they're kind of like this. I just finished Apocalypse, which is the final book in Fate of the Jedi, and there's one part where it's like the Senate murmured. And the sound effects they used is someone going like really loudly. That in the music choices, like it'll be like Wedge won a game of Sabacc, and it'll be like Binary Sunset starts playing, or like stubs his toe, and it's like Imperial March. It's like, but yeah, for me, like I usually read them. Lately, I've been like going for walks and reading them, or sitting on the back deck or whatever, and then I'll listen to the audiobook. It's kind of been a nice way to, you know, hit some of those key points again.
So on the topic of names, we have three new Wraith Squadron members. Do you want to touch on those 3 first before getting into the main plot? Just cover a bit of who they are.
Yeah, hold on. I actually don't remember their. Oh yeah,
so
there's Dia is the first one, right? Dia
Pasek. So
Pasek, right.
We have.
So she was a Twi'lek slave, right? Because of course, if she's a Twi'lek, she must have been a slave to somebody. And then we have Shala,
who's Kel's old hand-to-hand combat instructor, or her. I can't remember if she was or her sister was.
Sister of her.
But
she's really cool. I liked her.
And we have Castan Dawn, who's replacing Grinder as the app of choice and the slicer in the squad.
Right. Grinder died. He died in the last battle of last book, right? Doesn't he get trapped inside the?
He was
Is it the
inside the Star
Implacable?
Destroyer. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also have Lara.
Yeah,
That's
Lara,
kind of
who
a
joins
yeah.
the squad as the 13th member.
Mm-hmm.
Wraith Squadron for
So
lucky number 13.
there's something that I really kind of flagged super early on in this. So just to explain, Lara's kind of got an interesting thing going on. She's actually an ISB agent, but she kind of she's in the last book and she embeds herself. She's on the Implacable, right?
Yeah.
And then
She's
she
kind of
decides,
serving with Tridget, decided Tridget
right,
was
a
useless
bum
or
basically.
dishonorable.
Yeah, which she kind of was. And then she leaves and kind of she surrenders to the New Republic basically. But her backstory is that she's someone named Lara Notzel, someone who had died during one of the Implacable's attacks in reality, but she takes that persona. And she says that she'd been kind of like it kind of implies that she'd been like almost like a forced sex slave of is that too much? Like, is that what they're saying, or like
I think
because they
the
say
idea,
mistress.
like they were saying that was that's what she was trying to pass herself off as.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's
yeah,
what the New Republic thinks, right? Like that she
yeah,
was like a forced mistress, basically
yeah.
walked
That's
away and
what
essentially
the
a
New
broom
Republic. That's
covered.
what Ton thought. That's what Face thought. That's basically what I guess the whole squad is thinking throughout
Yeah.
the entire book.
So the really inappropriate thing for me is the fact that she's recovering in the hospital, and the members of Rogue Squad, I think it's Face and Fanon who come up with this plan, they're like, let's put her right back in harm's way, put her
Yeah,
like in front of another like really abusive man because they're trying to catch basically a New Republic officer who's kind of running this whole scheme. Um, yeah, she's probably got some serious like PTSD. And they're like, yeah, let's throw her back in action. Not only let's put her as part of the Starfighter squad, but let's essentially use her as bait. And she does end up getting beat up pretty badly as well.
yeah, and they don't know anything about the fact that she has this background of training either. This is
Yeah,
entirely like civilian who was forced in their minds. This is a civilian who was forced into that position. And they're like, hey, you want to basically go do that again? That's
yeah, it's a little messed up, especially because like she's literally, I think she meets Face or Fanon in the hospital too, and
mhm.
it's just like, yeah, god damn, give the woman a break. Like, there'd be some serious trauma going on. Because at one
Yeah,
point, they're even like the way she walks. It's like you could tell that they like scrubbed all because her backstory is of like a kind of a farmer on this world that they bombed.
mhm.
And it's like, yeah, they scrubbed all the farmer out of her, and like he molded her and hid her in this hidden closet and stuff, and pretty brutal situation.
Yeah. So that officer Atten Repness, I think it's Repness. It might be Repness.
Yeah, redness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was Tyria's officer, another one of Tyria Sarkin, another one of the Wraiths, training officer or commanding officer during her training, who was trying to force a bunch of his trainees, some of the ones who were not doing so well in their evaluations, to help him steal and sell fighters on the black market. And so Tyria had told some of her squad mates about it, hadn't told Wedge, and hadn't told, obviously, New Republic intelligence, because she was afraid that anyone she went to might be in league with that, and it would also destroy her career. So it's basically Fanon, Face, and Cal's idea, or I think it's just Fanon and Cal at first, but they have to get Face in on it
I
to...
don't think does Kel know.
I thought the original plan was Cal and Fanon talking about it to
Okay, I
confirm
thought it
that it
was
was
Fanon in
Repness.
face, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, and then Fanon
Okay.
Fanon has the idea to bring Face in because they need his clearance to do
Okay.
something.
Yeah.
And then Cal just gets kind of written out of the book after that. So
Yeah, like Kel and Tyria, I'd say, are the two main characters of the last book, and Kel spends half the time away from the squad in this one. It's kind of weird. Like, you don't really. It is nice because like there's nothing super remarkable about Kel.
yeah, he's just
He's a
worse
good pilot, but
scoring,
he's not
pretty
he's not like the
much.
best pilot, I don't think.
But I kind of like the idea of focusing on the different characters in each book, rather than it just being like the original 3 where it's just Corrin all the time.
Oh, totally.
Whereas
yeah.
we got to know Kel and Tyria fairly well in the previous one,
Mhm.
and everyone else kind of fell by the wayside. A little bit of Fanon, but in this book, it's a lot more on Lara, on Face especially, and there's still some like Fanon, Wedge, and everyone else mixed in. So a lot of my complaints with the last book, where it was like, I don't feel like I know many of the other squad members. With this, we
Agreed.
already know who the other ones are, and we get more build up for the rest.
Yeah, so I agree completely. I think this book does a better job. So I think that the first book, Wraith Squadron, doesn't do as well as Rogue Squadron, but this book I think is a better follow up and sort of the one
sure.
problem I guess with sort of going between characters like that is you do have there's mostly the problem with Kel and Min. It kind of treats their like arcs as complete. Like they both have kind of serious mental issues. In the last one, Min is dealing with kind of the loss of his squad, and Kel's issue is mostly related to like confidence and performance anxiety, and they both are kind of just solved. And they even say as much. Like Wedge is like, well, that's pretty much good now.
Well, you kind of get some discussions between Wedge and Wes on that, where it's like the whole squadron, all those issues stay kind of bubbling beneath the surface. And one of the themes is that they're not actually going to fix these issues for these people. It's just they might learn to cope with them better. So I was okay with that, where like we got the whole book dealing with this is Kel kind of coming to terms with that, if not entirely solving it. And now we get the whole book about like, these were Fanon's issues, these were Face's issues, and by the end, Fanon's not dealing with them so well, but Face at least,
at the very end,
and Diaz kind of gets compressed into a few pages. Or you get a bit of it at the start, and then you get a lot of it at the end, and then.
What was the name of the woman who died in the last book during the Implacable? Because it was kind of the same thing with her as with Fanon. They have unresolved issues, and they just kind of die.
I've absolutely forgotten her name.
The
one that dies with Grinder, right?
Yeah. Put Grinder into Google. No big deal. Grinder Bothan. That'll be better. He was a Bothan, right?
Yeah, he was a Bothan. Sandskimmer. Thanks.
Right. Yeah. Sandskimmer. The one who's got the weird hate of Luke. Well, not weird. Basically, like,
the one who's a Tatooine stereotype and then gets upset about the
literally called Sandskimmer.
Yeah.
Dark Later Skywalker, Sandskimmer. These Tatooinians have some interesting naming conventions.
But yeah, so Shala, I believe, is supposed to be Sandskimmer's replacement. Kasten is the replacement for Grinder, and then and then Diaz technically a replacement for Akbar, but like Runt gets Akbar's old duties. But
sorry. I just have something going on in the bathroom. I think there's a leak or something. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. I'll just go over the start for you guys then. So the book actually opens. We're talking about a couple of pages in where they're introducing these new characters, but the actual start of the book, we have basically a bar fight with the rogues, where they are kind of accosted by some fake military police that they suspect are working for Warlord Zinj, and this is kind of where we get introduced to Face's, or we get a bigger explanation of Face's ability to like read body language, how he's trained in that, and kind of what he brings to the squad from that experience. So he's, after the resolution of the fight, where they've dealt with the fake Zinj military police, otherwise they would have been arrested or shot themselves, they're in a kind of like a hearing to see whether Face had acted properly and Fanon had acted properly. Fanon actually slits the throat, I believe, of one of their assailants, who was actually the squad leader for the assailants, with a scalpel, with like a medical scalpel or a vibro scalpel, because Star Wars. And Face kind of explains to the commander how he's able to say, like, well, this guy didn't have the ability, or didn't have the kind of gait you'd expect for where he should have been from, and this was not who it was supposed to be. And I think that's kind of Thrawn's art interpretation tier of Star Wars making up stuff, but at least, but whatever. So we kind of get that, and we get a little bit of Wedge, kind of pondering what he'd gotten himself into with Wraith Squadron. But yeah, so that is pretty much how we open the book. Then we get introduced to. Welcome back. I just went over the bar fight at the start. If there's anything you want to say about that, or faces, body language skills, how do you feel about that?
I mean, it's kind of like the sort of classic X-wing thing of everyone's got like a really exaggerated skill. I mean, face I think is like at this point way too valuable to even be risking in a starfighter, because he's got like those impressive impersonation skills. He's got body language skills. He should really be doing, and I think later on he actually gets moved to intelligence, which seems to be a much more. I don't know. The beginning was confusing. I was trying to figure out what was going on, and then I was like, okay, pretty clever. Same when it happens, they kind of mirror it again later.
Yeah, I read it twice, and I wasn't 100% sure what was going on until you get to the scene explaining it afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But we go from there to Kel and Fanon talking about the plan to use Lara to get into Repness's good graces. Not gracious.
Using the who they think to be a victim of like some terrible abuse.
Yeah,
to take care of like, so it could have been literally anybody. It's like, she's pretty, we'll use her.
But we get her demand for what she wants in order to do this, and she wants a spot in Wraith or Rogue Squadron, which Face says sure before talking to Wedge, who is not pleased about this because he can lose them all their commissions. And he also has no open spots in his squadron anymore because we are introduced to Shala, Dia, and Castan. Castan, who it turns out is a human supremacist.
They don't really touch on that very much, other than that, like, he does get some, before his death, he gets a bit of like empathy, I guess, because he sees that creature being it's a towel, isn't it, being tortured,
like turned into a super killer monster.
Yeah.
And the fact that he like feels some sort of twinge of empathy was, I guess, his redemption moment before. Or I guess he wasn't really supposed to get redeemed there. It was just some of the people in Wraith Squadron are assholes and die assholes.
I did think it was kind of interesting though that they totally abandoned the whole idea of last chance pilots, you know? Because the three people they take on this time, they aren't last chance pilots. They're just going for people who have kind of the mixed skill of the mixed, like the ground and the flying abilities, you know?
Yeah. I think part of it is just that they have the draw, they've established themselves as a unit, so they don't need to justify their existence anymore or lowball what they're doing. Like, Wedge is probably able to make a better argument for, we're actually doing a good job doing important stuff, so give me slightly better resources now, rather than risking unit cohesion by trying to build everything from the ground up again. Like, there's still... I don't know that Shala really has the same issues as the rest of them, but Dia kind of plays it off in their initial meeting as if she doesn't when she's talking to Face in the bar. Where,
she clearly does.
She kind of like tries to hide it, but...
even like Wedge is getting some issues at this point, because he's like, it's kind of introducing an idea we haven't really seen before of like, he turns down a further commission or a promotion in last book, because obviously he is a great starfighter pilot, but Akbar and probably the rest of the New Republic wants him to be a general. But he would rather be a starfighter pilot because he thinks it's where he can do the most good. But in this book, he's like, well, maybe it's time to take that, because he sees, I think, Tyria and Kel kissing, and he's like, man, I could use some of that in my life.
Yeah, there's a lot of Wedge's desire for a family life that kind of comes up, where it's not like there's the romantic aspect with that, where he's kind of jealous of Kel and Tyria, but there's also a lot of mentions of his sister with Soontir Fel. Not like the usual Star Wars brother-sister relationship like we got in episode 5, but like just having
a lot less
that
kissy
kind of,
than that.
yeah, having just some sort of life outside of his job.
Yeah.
because his sister Sile is married to Soontir Fel, who
Soontir.
shows up in this book.
Sort of, yeah. Not really.
Absolutely,
And
100% the real Baron Soontir Fel.
it's kind of weird because there's like an implied history there, but you don't see it in the books. Like Soontir being part of Rogue Squadron, that was mostly the comics.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of cool, like that the comics are being brought in like that. But one problem I start to get in this book a little bit on that note is the Wraiths are pushing the boundaries of like what is reasonable survival, like almost to the limit. Like Ketch's, like the Ketch's technique or whatever, Ketch's drill is basically fly as fast as you can through as many enemy starfighters as possible. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So it's starting to get to the point where they're seeing too much action to still, and when you add in comics and so much implied history, you almost get a bit of that too, especially where we're still only, like 2 years after Endor?
This is 7.5 years after Yavin, so I think
so 3.5.
Yeah, three
Or,
to 4 years after Endor, I think, yeah.
On a side note, the reason why I had to leave just now, I should explain. Kelsey messaged me and said 911 Mayday in the bathroom. I thought that there was a leak or something. Giant spider. Like this spider was big enough to literally man its own X-wing. Like I was freaked out. Like this thing was like probably, I don't know, 3 inches long.
Did you take it outside or did you squash it?
Oh no, I wasn't touching that thing. I hold on. I took a picture of it.
Did your son have to take care of it for you guys?
He would have, but he was asleep actually.
Okay.
It usually would have been the dogs, but like I didn't want to miss, because Kelsey, when I came back to the podcast, she was like, you had to come because he could have gotten away and started a family. I'm kind of worried that he has. This thing is huge. I'll send you a picture after the stream, but
should put that in the thumbnail.
Yeah. This thing was monster. This was like a wolf spider or something. Like this thing was like eating like people or something. Anyway, I'm sorry for getting so off topic. I should get that off.
It's the first appearance of the Harch species in Star Wars, actually.
Yeah. Turn around, next moment he's commanding a Providence class.
Not just any Providence, a Providence Dreadnought.
Yeah, big one. Yeah, he wouldn't even need other bridge crew. He was that big. He was an absolute unit. I'm glad he's dead.
But yeah, so the Wraith surviving pretty much everything. I agree with that. At least though, I think the deaths we do get are handled a little bit better than they were in the original ones, and also there's not as much playing with the whole
isn't he?
They're dead, but not really, which happens to 3
Corrin, Tycho, maybe? Yeah, Tycho, Corrin, what's his name?
Roar
the other hot shot. Roar Jace, yeah.
And then it happens with Mirax, but nobody
cares. Yeah.
She just shows up back at the end of the book. Hey, I'm back.
Even Corrin doesn't even really care.
And then Mirax was there, who it turned out hadn't died. We were all happy. The end.
Not that happy, though. We could have went with it either way. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but Fanon's death especially, because Fanon and Face, they were really fun characters, and his death is like actually really good. One of the better Star Wars EU deaths I can think of.
Yeah. Like I didn't like Fanon in Wraith Squadron, but I started liking him more and more throughout this book. But then when we got to there's a point in the book right before that battle, actually, I think, where Fanon and Face have like a heart-to-heart about the fact that Fanon thinks that he's just repulsive to everyone because of his injuries and the fact that he can't use back to heal, which it's got to be a very rare thing in Star Wars to see anyone with a permanent injury like that. But at that moment, it was like, okay, he's dead. Like, this is them resolving his issues and just putting it on Face now. So
yeah, but because, well, I mean, the bigger issue was that he was kind of a broken person.
Yeah,
and like that's kind of what Face says. He's like, it's not your like weird creepy eye or anything. It's like it's the fact that like you see yourself as having no future, because like he was like a doctor. And yeah, he's like his humor is very funny, but it's always very self-deprecating. Like he says, like I wouldn't trust myself with a doctor of my quality, for example. Yeah. So I don't know. Like his death is like it's not just a lot of the other deaths in the series are um they get shot down in X-wing. That's it. But with his death, it's like he might make it. So basically, for those who don't know, he gets shot down during battle. Face, who's Fanon's best friend, kind of recovers him and is hauling him across kind of this. Is it like a jungle planet maybe, or like a swamp? I
It
guess.
seems like Halmat is fairly terrestrial, so we get a few environments.
Yeah, but basically, in the it's a very kind of interesting image because the Iron Fist is like in orbit, like silhouetted by the moon, and he just dies, and it's a good moment.
Yeah, and the squad actually assumes that Face is also dead at that point because their base on Halmat is basically getting raided by Iron Fist when they're doing some fake pirate raids, which I guess we'll talk about that in a moment. But as soon as Fanon gets shot down, Face goes down and lands on the planet trying to find him. But yeah, so one of the main things that happens in this book is it's kind of set up towards the start where Wedge breaks the squadron into 3 groups and kind of tells them to brainstorm about what they think Zinj is actually trying to do. So Face kind of comes up with the idea that Zinj sees Iron Fist more than just as a military tool, but as a symbol, because Zinj used to command a Victory Star Destroyer called Iron Fist and applied the same name to a Super Star Destroyer. So it's a very symbolic thing for him of his own rise to power. And Face kind of theorizes, well, 2 things. The main relevant thing for this book is that Zinj is probably going to try to steal a new Super Star Destroyer. And the second thing he theorizes is that we're going to be doing an episode on X-Wing Isar's Revenge. So
yeah, and he's like, what if Isard's not dead? And like I was just thinking, and like it shakes Wedge to his core, and I'm just like, so what if she's not? Like, she was trash. like she was not good. Like Zinj is beefier, he's sexier, he's more dangerous, he's got a better mustache and a better belly. Like, why would you ever be scared of Isard after facing off against Big Daddy?
Well, one thing that I didn't understand about how Face got to that conclusion is I would have loved to see this addressed in the book. Maybe we'll talk about it next book. But if Isard is alive, what color are her eyes? It never came up.
I think they probably just change kind of freely.
Yeah, see, I've always thought that she had like 2 green eyes, but it just would have been nice to have some.
Yeah, I thought they were just brown.
Well, if we got some sort of confirmation in the book.
Wait, but doesn't she have kind of a duality of personality where sometimes her evilness is cold like ice, and sometimes it's angry like fire?
Well, I think you're thinking of Icy Hot Packs, not Isard.
I'm thinking of what's her name from Trusa Bakura, Gariel Captizin. My mistake.
What a callback!
Yeah, I'm actually shocked that I was able to call her name back because I'm terrible with names, and we don't see her.
Well, actually, she shows up in another trilogy. Book, but she's got a secret identity where Gariel Captizin becomes Dariel Baptison.
Okay. We're calling back to jokes from this podcast, other podcasts.
That's when we really jump the sharp. It just becomes entirely self-referential humor.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically Zinj is an interesting villain because he's definitely not in it purely for he's interesting for a few reasons. He seems to be a lot more reasonable than many Imperials, sometimes anyway. Like, there was one moment where he has somebody killed on his bridge who was basically playing a fighter simulator.
Yeah.
But other times, like, the way he deals with pirates is very reasonable. He's cruel, but not as cruel as like others. Although he does do things like like he's doing that sort of project to weaponize aliens, which is obviously pretty shitty.
And he's
but
also giving the New Republic false leads about planets so that they'll go and basically bomb civilian or local military targets. So we can just come in and be the hero.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know. He just seems reasonable with his subordinates. Like he takes some flack from. I think he takes some flack from what's his name? Like the What's the commander of the Implacable again?
Tridget?
Tridget. Yeah, he takes some lip from Tridget in the last book. In this one, he takes quite a bit from Melvar, and like he doesn't execute them. Like around like Isard, you can't talk freely because she'll just like kill you.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing about Zinj is it's more that despite some of the memes, he ends up being less of the evil McBad guy caricature than a lot of other Imperial leaders do.
Totally.
And like there's some elements of that, but it's stuff that's fairly reasonable for someone who is that kind of like military dictator. So like how no one's allowed to look at him when he's fallen down or help him up.
Yeah.
Where you get those kind of like quirks of megalomania, but still at the same time, he's more believable. And I think that kind of comes across as him being more reasonable, even though he's like clearly
He has
a horrible person.
a bit of cult of personality thing going on too. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out whether this was true or not. But at one point, he's like drinking on his ship, and it like smells like liquor. It looks like liquor, and Melvar says Zinj was known for acting drunk, even around like subordinates and other officers. But everyone knew Zinj never drank when in command of a Super Star Destroyer. So basically, he's implying that like Zinj just does this for the like to keep people on their toes, basically. Yeah. And to me, though, I took that as Zinj just straight up lying, and he does drink, because like he's really fat, and like I don't know, it just doesn't seem to me like he's like he doesn't seem like somebody who's very regimented in that way.
Yeah,
I kind of just took that as Zinj does drink. He's got basically his own little bar set up in his weird his weird little space, but like he's just so like alpha male that he just tells people he doesn't, and they're like, well, I guess he doesn't.
I could see that being the case, but also so much of what he does is like performance.
Yeah.
So like I kind of saw him as they talk about him being like Han Solo's arch nemesis and rival and everything, but he really comes across more as a foil for Face in the book, where they're both that same kind of performance.
Over dramatic and stuff. I do like how he's just described at one point as like short and fat. It's just like he's short and he's fat.
He's not the kind of guy you'd expect to be an Imperial officer.
Most Star Wars books, like if someone's fat, especially an Imperial, they'll describe him as being like well muscled, but with they'll say he has a powerful chest, but covered with a little fat, or he was tall and broad, but with a large belly. Usually, but in this case, just like no, the dude was short and he was fat.
Well, the fighter simulator guy on the bridge, he finds that out because he's like his room is just a hollow projection or a recreation of the bridge, where he's able to like go and look over all of his subordinate shoulders while he's doing stuff. Yeah. So he seems extra. Like he's always on duty. So if he's ever drinking anything, it's
well, yeah. So he didn't even drink when he's in command of a ship. So I assume he just doesn't anymore ever.
Yeah.
What do you think? So you kind of touched on this basically. What do you think of Han being given? Well, I guess he already had the commission from Endor, but what do you think of him being in command of Solo Command?
That's always been one of the weirdest things to me, is the idea of Han as this fleet commander position, because he clearly hates the job too.
Yeah.
And it's probably one of the bigger New Republic fleets we see too, because he says he's split it into 3 groups. So we get like proper 3 capital ships, which is huge for the series.
In Solo Command, we actually get a full breakdown of his ships, and he's got I think he's got 6 or 7 in total, because I remember one of the fleets has 2 Star Destroyers. So yeah, he's packing some serious power.
But we'll get into the superpowers of Mon Ramonda later, I assume.
Yeah, Jesus, the thing takes a full broadside from a Super Star Destroyer like nothing. I mean, his tactics aren't especially good either. The Super Star Destroyer's running, and I guess it
sit
works.
in front of him, guys.
Yeah. 2 Super Star Destroyers? Like, he's like, let's just get in front of it.
I don't know why early season Homer Simpson is here. But yeah, so when we find out about Zinj's fake bridge, we get Melvar's creepy sneaking up on him thing, which one of my favorite subplots in the book is Melvar trying to freak Zinj out. But that's when we learn about that they're trying to get Gara's attention, get her back into Imperial service under them, and I'm not sure if that's when they. No, that's not when they make their plan to lure her out, but that's when they start talking about how she's
pretty early
within the
there,
Republic. Yeah, because she's not with Wraith Squadron just yet, so they wouldn't have that plan yet. But they do express an interest in her at that point.
Yeah, because they know she's sort of embedded within the New Republic by now, but she's also going through this kind of internal struggle, which I actually think the way the book deals with it is pretty interesting, because so she's going through this internal struggle, and her background is in Imperial intelligence, and she's basically getting to the point where at certain points when she's under a lot of stress, she almost like disassociates, and like sometimes she even forgets like which one of her identities is reality.
Yeah. I really liked how they handled most. Sorry?
No, go ahead.
I really liked how they handled most of this stuff with her. It's just, I did find the position she was coming from to be a little weird with how they justified why she was switching sides. Because with her position in intelligence, you'd think that there would be, because it was like her skill set is as a performer, basically. So you'd think there'd be a lot more interaction with enemy forces. But it's basically the fact that she was exposed to the enemy force, to the New Republic or Rebel forces. And she's like, oh, wait, these guys aren't actually monsters, and I don't necessarily want to kill them. So
yeah,
it just seems like the kind of thing she should have been exposed to before, and I thought that was a little bit weird. That she was just getting those.
It's kind of surprising that even the intelligence personnel are so heavily indoctrinated. Like, you would want them to generally kind of have a good idea of what's really going on. But yeah, interesting character though, and yeah, we'll see more from her obviously in the next book. What was I going to say though? So let's talk basically about Zinj's. I guess, do you want to talk about Zinj's plan for her, or do you want to kind of keep in order? I guess
we'll probably get to that in a minute, just because I guess we'll talk about the Hawk Bats and then
the Wraith's general setup, basically, because I guess like most X-Wing books, there's a lot of time dedicated to like talking about their base and their HQ and their general like mission setup. So in this one, it's kind of weird. They're in like basically an abandoned asteroid, which has been hollowed out by some mining guild. Tonheld Mining Corp. That's what you're.
Tonheld Mining Corp, Site 3A3.
Yeah. And unfortunately, they don't get to keep the CR90 they customized from last time, which is too bad because it's a pretty cool ship they got going.
Yeah. Well, Wedge has a pretty good point with that, I think, where like the idea to start acting like pirates is basically based on Peggy's conclusions from the earlier thing about finding out what Zinj is after, where Peggy says we should act like pirates because Zinj is apparently trying to court pirates and has all these secret financial interests. So they set up on Halmad with that freighter, and one of them, I think it's Kel, asks, why are we not using Nightcaller? And Wedge's like, yeah, the Corellian Corvette happens to help destroy Implacable, then another Corellian Corvette shows up. It'd be a little bit suspicious there, buddy.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, like they run the TIE interceptors on missions for and against Zinj.
Yeah,
like I don't know, like it's just kind of disappointing. But I understand it. The new freighter they have, they don't spend hardly any time with it. And this is one thing that I messaged you about while we were reading. So they're on this asteroid belt, which I guess is in the same system of the planet they're raiding. But it never really talks about like how they get to and from the asteroid belt, because most of the time they're flying TIE interceptors because they're supposed to be pirates. And they steal those TIE interceptors from that planet, actually. So I guess they're just flying sublight to and from their base every time, which seems to be like a really bad idea.
The main base is on the planet, because I'm pretty sure Face walks there, right? So,
when does he walk there?
When Face crashes,
no, he leaves in his TIE interceptor.
Does he? Oh, right. Okay,
Yeah.
so never mind.
Yeah, because their main base is in the asteroid, because we get that scene where Min is like practicing his zero-G shooting, which kind of comes into play later on.
Yeah. So it's probably just either short enough distance, or they go a bit and sublight with the freighter and then jump.
Yeah. I guess it doesn't really matter. It's just
not really something they need to explicitly say in the book very much.
No. It's just like for nerds like us. We're just like, excuse me, first of all, TIEs have no landing apparatus, so how are they landing here? Second of all, no hyperdrive. Also, Corrin forgot to do his startup sequence, and he was flying a new ship for the first time. I find that highly irregular.
We never actually see in the book when Lara's seat gets adjusted after Repness has her fighter, so is she just uncomfortable the whole book?
Through implication, where he has to slightly kneel under the ladder. So we can tell that he's about 4 inches taller, so... God damn it, Aaron Alston. Scrub.
But yeah, so we get the breakdown of their new base and their Zytar, or I'm never sure how to pronounce it. Zetar.
I just said Zytar.
Zytar freighter. The Halmad base. Then we get the raid on the Halmad base to get the 5 TIE interceptors, which it kind of works as a way for them to introduce the skills of the new wraiths more than anything, especially Shala and Kasten. Yeah. Where Kasten's like saying, "Oh, if you set off too many different flags for stuff that's not supposed to be happening, base will go on full alert." And Shala is like doing a bunch of commando stuff to get a skimmer. And
that seemed a little unnecessary, because it's like this book has a few situations where like characters are sent off. Like Shala is sent off a couple times on her own. Didn't quite understand what her purpose was. She goes through a lot of work to steal that skimmer.
Yeah. Then
this book kind of suffers from like the very common X-Wing thing, where like their plan hinges on so many things, so many assumptions working. Like this plan is just, it's ridiculous. It's super fun, but it's ridiculous. Like basically they want to attract Zinj's attention, so they steal TIE interceptors and pretend to be pirates and raid this planet that Zinj will hopefully notice,
Yeah, it's a pretty long sequence, and it basically just serves to set up that fact that like everything they're going to do with the battle for Razor's Kiss will work. And in that battle, Shala kind of takes over both her and Kasten's jobs, because Kasten makes a program later, which we'll talk about the repercussions of, to kind of, if they can plug it into the Iron Fist or Razor's Kiss, they can track it, and that's how they're going to get Mon Ramonda to the Razor's Kiss / Iron Fist. And Shala ends up being the one to put that in. So she's doing her commando duties plus Kasten's computer duties.
Yeah, because Kasten's a loser, basically. One thing about, speaking of Mon Ramonda, because I think we see it pretty early on. They don't acknowledge that it's like this new Mon Calamari cruiser, because in the later established lore, it's an MC-80B, which is kind of like a midway ship between the MC-80 line and the like fully MC-90 warships.
Yeah, it's basically like the first production warship that the Mon Calamari do.
But yeah, we don't really get any acknowledgement of that. I did a whole video on it though, and I found it gets destroyed during Operation Shadow Hand, I think. So
that poor ship. Yeah. Funnily enough, right after Han is no longer on it.
I think it's eaten by a World Devastator, but I could be wrong. Get friggin' wrecked
that no one deserves. Yeah. Probably got turned into a couple TIE. There's TIE droids out there that are made out of Mon Ramonda.
And is that why the World Devastators still aren't working, Corey? Because you're upset about Mon Ramonda?
Yeah. # justice for Mon Ramonda. No abilities for World Devastators and Thrawn's Revenge until that gets addressed.
one thing, and that's gonna kind of brings me to a point that I wanted to mention. So a lot of people who probably, maybe not who are listening to this podcast, but I know who watch my channel and probably watch yours, hear the lore that we kind of talk about. Like I'm always talking about like the Nebula Star Destroyer or whatever else.
No,
And
that's
just assume,
literally all you talk about.
yeah, the Nebula or the Viscount or whatever else, and they assume that like a Star Wars Legends book is like, it will be like the New Republic fleet was made up of 16 ships, 1 Viscount class Star Defender, 3, like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In reality, it's like there was a Mon Calamari cruiser.
Yeah.
Or like even like I noticed this a lot during my New Jedi Order reread. So for example, the MC-90 and stuff, we learn about that in whatever books it's in, and mostly in the Essential Guide to Warfare. So there's this sort of history of New Republic ship design. In reality, is it followed? Not really, because it'll be like 25 ABY, and they'll be like an MC-80A popped out of hyperspace or whatever.
And that's if you're lucky enough to get any kind of designation.
Yeah, exactly.
The cruiser, which could be anything from 25 meters to 16,000.
That's like the we still have no idea, and there's so many like mysteries too. Like we don't know what it doesn't get worse as time goes on, but like there are many important ships we learn nothing about, like the Megador from the Swarm War.
Yeah.
And actually, just the last scene, one of the last scenes in Fate of the Jedi is Jaina being married aboard the Megador. Or no, Jerry not being married aboard the Megador. Them leaving the Megador. And we still don't even know what kind of Super Star Destroyer it is. I was so annoyed that I tweeted at Troy Denning, and he was like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, one of the funny things about the Megador and Dominion, I think for both of them, we get engine counts.
Yeah, we did.
They don't match up with anything, which is kind of why in Thrawn's Revenge, eventually we're going to make like one a Bellator and one a Mandator too, just so that they're slightly related. Sense. But yeah, it's really just like they're super and they're a Star Destroyer. What do you want? But
yeah, I mean it's the same. It's annoying too because we even get like the new Star Destroyers, like the Bloodfin and the Turbulent and stuff. Oh, sorry, the Bloodfin was a Turbulent, I think. Either Turbulent and the other class the Empire uses, but whatever. And it's just like their new Star Destroyer. It was a little smaller.
Yeah, like the only series I can really think of off the top of my head that kind of prioritizes that, like this fleet group. Yeah, and that's those are some books. They're not some of the better Star Wars books if you're looking for like.
I just can't wait to say Taljikon Vagabond.
That'll be fun.
But yeah, so we do get a lot of detail about like fighter squadrons in this, which is nice, but we never really get that, in fleet combat in these books is really kind of, sometimes it's handled really well. Like I think it's handled decently in the last book. This one, not so much.
Yeah, I feel like I like Aaron Alston's character development better, but I like the combat from Michael Stackpole a bit better.
Yeah, I agree completely.
But I don't think it's like necessarily bad, but there's definitely some stuff that doesn't gel super well with what we know about
it's not super modern in a way, if that makes sense.
And this book also goes with the assumption, or with the earlier figures of like 8 kilometers for an SSD, which kind of makes it a little bit more reasonable what happens later, but still not super reasonable. But yeah.
Another thing too, I know that I just kind of was just thinking about this. Alston doesn't really do very much like greater sort of world development. Like in the X-Wing novels, and this might be because the rogues are kind of, I guess they're seeing more of the galaxy and they have kind of more broad missions. But we get a lot of we learn a lot more about the state of the Empire and the New Republic. This not really. It's kind of we're learning a lot about the Squadron.
Yeah, with Rogue Squadron, they're kind of like the upper crust of society. So we get a lot of scenes where it's New Republic Council meetings, but then with the Wraiths, they're kind of the flip side of that. So we get a lot of pirate activity.
Yeah.
So,
but like one thing that I guess kind of bothers me a little bit is they're always talking. I meant to bring this up. they're often talking about like the state of the Empire. So it's like Zinj, the Empire, and they're clearly distinct entities, which makes sense. And then the New Republic. But we don't really learn much about. We get like one line in this book about the Empire is like, and I guess, but like we don't really know much about who's running it, like what their greater goals are right now because they've been pushed out of Coruscant, what kind of strength they have. It's just kind of Zinj as like this because he's guy who's using Imperial stuff, really.
Yeah. Like, I think between even with Isard on Typhera, we don't really hear too much about what's going on with the broader Empire because
Right.
at that point she's kind of isolated from,
Mm-hmm.
I guess the Moff Council, or however you would want to say, is in charge of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then between her and Thrawn, you don't really get too much of it. Where you have Terran Rogris working with Han kind of working with Han, but against Zinj, and he's kind of representing the Empire there. But even he's not like in charge of the Empire. He's just this senior ranking Northeast Fleet commander.
Yeah. I think this has to do a lot with the fact that they were sort of not written into a corner, but like they're working off of Courtship of Princess Leia, I guess.
Yeah.
They're sort of building up to that. But yeah.
I guess, yeah, so after that we get into Lara finishing her training. Do you want to just go into, like, we'll just jump to where she shuts down Repness? Like, she gets approached in the same way that Tyria kind of does.
Oh, yeah.
And then she's kind of told by Fanon and Face, like, once he approaches you, just call us. Mm-hmm. And Wedge's thing is like, how? Where?
Yeah, they're like hidden on an asteroid somewhere.
Yeah, and then she just says, no, I'm just going to take care of this myself. Turns this device that Repness uses to block out recording into a recorder, and then dumps the data to herself. And on top of the recorded attempts to make these deals to get black market fighters, he apparently uses it in, I think Lara calls them more personal moments.
Yeah, he's on his Pornhub account.
Passwords.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of, they've got something similar in Truce Bakura. Remember, it's like the little nullifier they put, not for recordings, but like blocks.
The really expensive devices. Bulbs of recording blocking.
Yeah. Yeah.
That,
so yeah, she tries to intimidate him, and he's just like, nah, like beats the shit out of her, like kicks her in the head. And then we don't really get any resolution of that. It's just like kind of handled off screen.
Yeah, we're just kind of told, oh yeah, he's gone, but here's this new member of Wraith Squadron.
Yeah.
And
it says
she gets his fighter, so he's presumably entirely gone.
Yeah.
But you'd think there'd be like something between Kraken and Wedge at some point, because there's such concern over what this is going to do to NR intelligence, where like they don't find out that anyone was involved, but it just would have been.
I don't know. It seems pretty obvious because she goes out of her way to not include any of the other pilots, like the scores, only her own. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems like the whole investigation just gets dropped at that point.
I feel like if Wedge just talked to Kraken, like they probably could have sorted something out.
Yeah. Like Wedge wouldn't have the same issue that Tyria has of like, I don't know who's in on this, where at that point, like Wedge has a working relationship with Kraken, and especially after everything with Tycho, then you'd have to assume that he's probably not involved.
I mean, yeah, I guess the real sticker is that Tyria doesn't want to talk about it because she's worried like they'll.
But after Face goes to Wedge with it, you'd think there'd be some other way for Wedge to be like, hey, let's find a solution for this that doesn't involve
like just
an abuse victim back in.
Or like I think Wedge could have just been like, there's a member of my squad, like I'll tell you this information, but you got to promise that you don't demote her, because she's not really worried about I don't think she's worried about, she's mostly worried about being kicked out of the fighter corps for not being good enough, isn't she? But like the fact that she's flying decently at this point, she's like one of the second worst Wraith, I think. The fact that she's flying decently, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
She's probably better than what's his name, the new guy, Caston. Yeah, because he's given the Wraith 2 designator and flies next to Wedge, which he thinks is like a big honor, but it's like, nah, like Wedge is worried you're gonna get yourself vape.
Yeah, this whole book is just like shitting on Caston, which I'm here for it.
Yeah,
But
me too. Die Ghost in the chat says Wedge and Face were worried one of Kraken's immediate lieutenants were in on it. Yeah, I guess that's true, but still.
yeah, but you'd think if there's
Kraken.
anyone qualified to handle that situation,
Exactly.
it'd be Kraken. Where he
even
would
call Pash. Like Pash could,
Yeah, and Pash is good at everything.
Yeah.
So
Pash is too good to deal with a situation like this.
It just seems like there were better solutions to this, because basically if anything goes wrong with Lara, then they have no reason to think she has any of the skills for this, and that would expose literally all of them to every repercussion they're afraid of. Because we know as the readers that she is this intel operative who has these piloting skills. To them, she is literally just someone who was a farmer who was essentially used as a sex slave by an imperial officer, and the only reason she's qualified for this is because she was in a medical room next to Tan.
Yep.
No,
she's also attractive, don't forget.
Oh, yeah, and that. Which, it just seems like the absolute worst way they could have gone through with it.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, that, it's assuming a whole bunch of things that they couldn't assume, like there's no reason they should have been assuming about Lara, while also assuming that Kraken is so bad at his job that if Wedge went to him with these concerns, Kraken would just immediately turn around to anyone who could be a possible suspect there. So,
yeah, let's move on. There's a lot of questionable decisions in all of the X-Wing books.
But yeah, so that's when Zinj and Malvar now start setting up a plan to lure Lara Notzel back to Aldave, which is her, the real Lara Notzel's homeworld. And they plan to use her brother, and I'm not entirely sure if it was her actual brother, if it was the same faked records to make an Imperial operative seem like her brother.
I think it was her actual brother.
Okay, but so the whole thing about him being a dude, yeah, he knows it's not real Lara, but I wasn't sure if the backstory of he's just a scummy guy was something made up, because
he was supposed to be in jail, but he was somewhere else. Yeah. So that seems to be real.
Yeah, so that sets up that subplot to get her back, which doesn't really go many places. It just turns into more ruminating by Lara on whether or not she wants to be a Wraith or an Imperial, or how to best sever those ties and get away from exposing herself either to Zinj or to the New Republic, because we finished this book without her having told anyone what her real identity is or how she came to be with them. And she's especially concerned about Mindonos finding out, because she was partially responsible for the destruction of Talon Squadron, which is what gave him his PTSD issues. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it was largely her too, because she was the one who she helped splice the fake information in.
Yeah.
And of course, her and Min are also kind of developing a bit of a relationship. But we'll deal more with that in the next book, I'm pretty sure. Because I do think they end up together, if I remember correctly. So yeah, that's an issue.
Remember when you got all of my friends killed? Yeah,
literally everyone but me. Yeah, I don't know. It is an interesting thing. So the plan is basically to show up as the brother. The brother also, they Photoshop family pictures and stuff, just in the background to have her face as part of them, which was kind of creepy and kind of cool. And she's just this is gross. And kind of through all that, she realizes, plus the Zinj's overall strategy, that Zinj also isn't a man of, and that the rebels aren't, she's kind of accepted for the first time, and she's feeling the love for the first time. So
I liked that a lot more than the focus on it turns out the rebels aren't attack dogs, because I thought the rest of that was done really well. It was just the sudden understanding that rebels aren't attack dogs that I
And that's
didn't
only
like.
really one scene too.
Yeah.
Like when they're in the hangar and they're like, okay, we'll try not to kill people. She's like, TIE pilots would just be like, let's blast shit.
But I do you want to just resolve the rest of like that recruitment subplot here so we don't have to jump
Sure.
back to it later?
Yeah, so they go to the planet. They kind of like split everyone up. They go to the planet. It's her and Min, yeah, because he's a sniper. Her brother's there. He basically says, all right, there's a couple of options. They find out that Min's in the hills with a sniper rifle trained on the house. They're off to go kill him. First, they want her to put a homing beacon on the ship, but it's not like a tiny thing. It's like a big, like really expensive, large piece of machinery. She's like, that won't be possible. Then they're like, okay, let's just take your X-wings and go back to the Iron Fist. And she's like, no. And she kills. It's Min and it's
Rossic
her brother
and her brother, like Tharvin or something. I just made that up. Yeah. I think I just made that up, but
I don't know.
But yeah, so that's basically where that ends, where she kind of makes her final decision that she is not going to rejoin the Imperials. Like again, it's a little bit later in the book, but just so we don't end up going too much back and forth. We do get a nice scene between Tyria and Lara for that when she actually gets the request to go to the planet, where Lara kind of goes through a sequence of a bunch of wraiths looking for a place where she can just go and punch something. Where it's like she has the scene with Tyria, then she has an exchange with Kel, and then Min.
And they all have their own like way to let off steam because they're all kind of broken people.
It felt like
she's like disassociating a bit.
Yeah. It felt a bit like a series of conversations in a JRPG where she was just walking down the hallway. I've been playing way too much Fire Emblem. But
where did she get her Phoenix Downs? I think, isn't that a thing?
I think so. But that's the earlier Tavin, not so. So I wasn't that far off.
One thing, yeah, so that gets resolved. And one thing I wanted to mention too, earlier when they're kind of establishing themselves as pirates, they're attacking this freighter. And I couldn't figure out who the freighter actually belonged to. Because, so the New Republic has this thing, they don't like when even like special operations squads are allowed to engage in piracy, because it usually ends with whoever's leading the squad basically taking not kickbacks, but basically taking a cut.
Yeah, just becoming actual pirates.
Or a warlord even. But who like, so they're attacking this freighter that they find out the information because I think Face gets one of the guys drunk.
Yeah.
And they end up robbing it twice. Are they robbing from the planet there? Is that like a private person? Because it's not the Empire.
I think they're private, but they were also running cargo for the Imperials in some capacity. Because wasn't there a TIE interceptor?
Yeah, there was
on one of them
parts. Yeah.
So there was something where they weren't just like a straight up legit business. So I think there was some target selection with that, but I don't remember that part enough to be 100% confident in that.
You know?
But yeah. And it was really just really mean of them to get the information, basically track them and rob them again.
Jesus, yeah. Nice doing business with you, he says as he puts his family into poverty.
We don't kill anyone, though.
Yeah.
Do you have a moment to talk about how economic policies kill people, General Carp?
Yeah, as his children lay starving.
Well, that's what they had to do. Like they had to raid the Imperial base. They had to get whatever they were getting from there. Run just gets really into the whole pirate persona too.
You know what they should have just done though? Repair the goddamn Lusankia that they 100% own at this point.
That's medical research right now. You can't use an SSD.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just put medical research on some freaking planet somewhere.
I think it would have been a bit more suspicious to Zinj if the Hawkbats were running around with an SSD. So if they traded Nightcaller for Lusankia, that'd be bad.
In the new canon, there's a pirate superstar destroyer. I think it's the Annihilator, maybe.
Did Booster Tarek get upgraded?
Kind of. But yeah, it's like it is kind of similar because it's like a floating city basically that's They steal it from the Empire.
Nice.
Yep.
The upkeep on that's just got to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would not want that.
No.
But we get a bunch of appearances of the most famous Hawkbat pilot, Lieutenant Ketch, the Ewok, who Wedge essentially has to do like marionette performance as he's flying, where he's painted his. This is at the.
I feel like that wasn't necessary.
Probably not. Just in case.
I feel like they should have just told Zinj that, like, no, that's not actually an Ewok. It's just something we do to screw with people.
But that would have been less fun.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I don't know. I feel like Zinj, like marionetting pilot, as he's like flying through hordes of fighters, is just like.
Yeah, I wasn't clear if it was just like the Ewok stitched to the front of Wedge, which has to be kind of restrictive because they're not tiny. And
yeah, well, he describes it as being restrictive too.
I wouldn't risk my life like that. I'd maybe put like one of those window stickers up of just an Ewok.
Yeah, Corey only cosplays in his as a furry in his personal time.
Well, if I'm driving, I'm not gonna.
I got a picture of a dog as my logo, so I gotta be very careful. I always get asked, "Are you a furry?" And it's like, no, it's just a stupid meme.
I wasn't sure about that when I first found your channel.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie.
I gotta fix that. I'm gonna edit my logo just at the very top. I'm gonna put the word "not" at the very bottom. A furry. Just so we're clear.
Hey, whatever you're into. What's after that? So a lot of surprise they don't all suck. Doesn't kill Wedge on. Okay, yeah. So that's the next thing we get is a big family reunion between all the rogues and wraiths, where Zinj is supposed to think that the wraiths are with Rogue Squadron on Mon Ramonda the whole time, but obviously they're off doing their pirating stuff and other wraithy activities. And but we do finally get that meeting between them, where we finally get to see all our favorite characters, like Nawara Ven in particular.
Listen, he's very important in Fate of the Jedi, okay?
Hey, I actually really like Nawara.
Me too.
I'm upset we didn't get any oral, but
oh yeah, that's true. I do like how with Nawara though, like if you haven't read the X-Wing books or the earlier books, you're missing out because they make like reference to him being an attorney. Like they make a law joke, but they don't explain that he's a lawyer really.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. It's like they're throwing them in there, but yeah, I still miss like Corrin and Tycho. We do get some Tycho, but
we get like one or two throwaway lines from Corrin in each book too, just to keep that continuity. But we get a scene with Nawara, Taldira, who's the other Rogue Squadron Twi'lek, and Dia,
I forgot about him.
Where they're like stuck. I think they're stuck in an elevator or something. Not stuck, but they're in an elevator, and Nawara decides this is the best time to make small talk. Like, so let's talk about Ryloth. And
she's like, I was actually a sex slave. Can you go away, please?
Yeah. And then Taldira, who is known for his social grace, is like, yeah, you really messed that up, buddy. But
yeah, I like Taldira. That's funny because I couldn't remember if he was dead or not.
Yeah, I always think of him as dead, and then he shows up in the subsequent books, and it's
Is he flying an X-Wing now, or is he still? He's not still in his.
I think he has an X-Wing once he's actually joined Rogue Squadron. I don't think he kept the Chiraki.
Too bad. Neat little thing.
But Nawara points out that with Mon Ramonda tracking down every lead they get from Zinj, there's the possibility that Zinj is putting in false leads and just getting him to soften and getting Han to go and soften targets so he can go in and be like, hey, the New Republic attacked you. You should join me, and you can't defend yourselves against me. So, haha. And it turns out he is right. And they kind of put that to the test with the next planet they're going to raid, where they go and they attack the planet defenses anyways. But that's when they find out that there was no Raptor response. So Zinj's elite forces are called the Raptors. Yeah. And the fact that there was no Raptors fighting them was kind of their dead giveaway that this was just a planet that Zinj wanted them to come and soften up for him.
And they still do, which is kind of weird because they should have just turned and ran, but they don't.
They kind of needed something to draw Zinj out, but it's like, no, at this point you are literally just doing the thing he wants you to do. Granted, to confirm your suspicions, but like Yeah, you probably could have come up with a better plan for that.
The Raptors aren't at this point. They aren't being said to use the TIE Raptor, are they?
I don't know if we see any TIE Raptors, but at least we do see a couple of the Raptor Troopers. Because I don't think there's any mention of TIE Raptors in this. Like, we get just general TIEs referenced, which I guess since they're not really specified, it probably can be retconned as a TIE Raptor.
Yeah.
But they destroyed a bunch of the TIE fighters. I think there's at least 4 confirmed kills on the Planetary Defense Forces that we get. Yeah. Actually, Wedge gets 2, Lara gets 1, and another rogue or another wraith that I can remember gets 2. I can't remember which one it was, but there's at least 5 fighters that they kill there before Iron Fist shows up.
Right, and to be fair, some of those are also on the way out too because they get attacked by the moon base. Yeah, makes sense.
But the big thing with that battle, though, it's mostly focusing on Lara and how she's flying with Wedge. And she has multiple opportunities where she's like, I'm flying against these Imperial pilots, and I'm kind of hoping I'm not going to have to kill any Imperials, because when I get back, how's that going to be looked at? And then she's like, oh, I'm flying with Wedge. I can target Wedge. He's right there. I could shoot Wedge. I could kill Wedge. Am I going to kill Wedge? I'm not going to kill Wedge. Here I am not killing Wedge. And the whole chapter is really just that. But,
yeah, because that's also when we get the first bit of the like her kind of experiencing what the rebels were really like as well.
Yeah, like it was the meeting on Mon Ramon right before then where she made the comment about
because one of the things for her is trust as well.
Yeah,
she's like Wedge puts all his full shields forward basically, and she's like, wow, he really trusts me.
Yeah,
and then later she's like, yeah, I find this to be addicting. Like the trust that people give me, she's really into that.
Yeah, and that was where it was like, Tridget and Zinj are dishonorable. And why did I add in Zinj? Like, okay, none of them are worthy of what I was kind of putting into them. And so any more on Lavisar for you?
I don't think that there was something I had, but I think I gone and done forgot it. Oh
no.
No, I think that's pretty much it.
All right. For that. So I guess that brings us to the second raid on Halmad, where the plan was to rig up a tanker with a bunch of explosives. The explosions come later, and they were gonna attack a starfighter base, I think it was.
Yeah, they were like making 2 at the same time. They wanted to take one out.
Yeah, and this is where Iron Fist shows up over the planet, and
it's like, nah, that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah, they start getting attacked by all the fighters. This is when Ton gets shot down, Face goes down to help him, and Mindonos has like they lose contact with their way to blow stuff up, and they end up using the tanker to blow a hole in the tractor beam. Yeah,
the tractor beam of the Iron Fist, and then they're like, well, they set it up so they're shooting like data in the laser as well, like because it's like a signal to blow the thing up.
They rig his sniper rifle to be a targeted cell tower.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, which is weird because that's not really how lasers work.
Yeah, but it's like it was cool.
Yeah, it was cool, and it's like a little callback to that scene where he's practicing in 0G earlier, or he talks about practicing in the caves. Yeah, I really like the scene where the Iron Fist is like the thing's exploding in her belly, and I forget who it is, but they're just like, please crack in half. They're like, please. They're just like waiting for the giant ship to like just snap in half because it's a pretty big explosion, and it doesn't, of course, but it's just like. And later we get the scene where they're like looking at it. It's like a mythical beast, basically. This like gigantic dreadnought. It just like symbolizes everything that's evil.
And that kind of does help with the later battle where they probably can't effectively field as many fighters.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, this is when Ton crashes, and we lose our beloved doctor.
Gotta say, that was a goddamn sad death, man.
Yeah.
That was like, I was trying to think of Star Wars Legends deaths that like were better than that. I think that death's way better than Mara Jade's.
Yeah. The
I
only
think
one
it's
that really has more far-reaching consequences would be like Anakin and Chewie, where both
Chewie's
of them
death
kind of
is
break up the solos.
but it's not like because that like Fanon's like such a small character in the
Yeah,
grand scheme of things. The death doesn't really mean anything. It's just like it's just really really well written. I think what's his name's death in NJO.
Gannon?
Yeah, Ganner Rhizotti's death is pretty good. Fate of the Jedi has the death of I forget his name. There's another Last Stand in Fate of the Jedi where one of the guys that protects Alana Solo, one of the Jedi. I can't remember. But yeah, what other great Star Wars EU deaths can you think?
Nothing that's like impactful on the same emotional level that we get here, other than maybe Anakin and Chewie.
Jason's death is really good too because I think Anakin's death is probably the best in Legends. Just like in the moment, Chewie's is interesting because it's got like the far-reaching consequences, but to me, almost went a little too far. Like it's almost too dark. Like I don't read Star Wars
Han's
EU books to
alcoholism.
see, like Han like breaking as a person. Like it's just not what's like I read Star Wars books for. If you know what I mean.
But we kind of get that in a compressed way with Face for a while.
But it's a bit more like unreal, if you know what I mean. Like Hans is like blaming his son and shit, and like his family breaking apart. Like that's really heavy shit.
Yeah. I don't know what that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of other good Star Wars EU deaths. Let me see. Hold on. I'm gonna Google this. See what other people say because this is just I don't know. It's like kind of rare moment of it's just. Let's see.
I mean, we've got Pip saying Thrawn in the chat, but I don't think Thrawn's death is really that great.
It's not sad at the time.
It's not sad. Like Thrawn is just such a disconnected character. Like he's supposed to be this mysterious figure that's capable of just killing everyone, but there's not that same emotional connection that anyone has to him. So
yeah, Thrawn's death is like kind of retroactively sad. Like in the Thrawn duel, when he's kind of like retconned as a character.
Yeah, like after I think more after like Outbound Flight that he actually becomes a character. With the Hand of Thrawn duology and everything, it's still just like this cult behind him.
Yeah.
But and by that point, everyone's already read the Thrawn trilogy, so it's like, oh, this guy eventually dies, but meh.
Yeah. On that note, it is kind of exciting that we don't know what happens with Thrawn in canon.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be brought back.
Oh yeah. It's just like I've never been around. Like there's never been a time where I've been reading the EU where like I didn't know what Thrawn's end would be, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess Thras and Lorana Jinsler is pretty well done in Outbound Flight.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're crashing Outbound Flight to save everyone else.
What's her name? We get some good in what's Alima Rar's sister's name?
No, it's not Alora. That's the Jedi Knight one.
Because her death was pretty good. Yeah.
But yeah, Fanon is definitely top 5 Star Wars deaths and anime betrayals of all time. But
number 1 is definitely when Luke lets his new girlfriend take the body of his classmate. Students.
We're getting into some weird shit in a few minutes. So.
I really was upset when that one Gorog Killick died. You know, the short one.
There's that droid in KOTOR that you blow.
Yeah. Robo Leia killing Trioculus.
Oh god.
True.
What about Empatrogea's Brand blowing himself up?
That one is pretty. He's like, I'm gonna take Palpatine straight to hell. No one ever talks about the fact that Han Solo is the one who ultimately kills Palpatine, shoots him with a blaster.
So actually, I was listening to, I think it was the Rooster Teeth podcast recently when they were talking about some Game of Thrones stuff, and so maybe like allusions to spoilers here, but they basically called what happens in Game of Thrones the same as if Star Wars ended with, I believe he said Han. I think Bernie said Han shooting Vader with a blaster, and that was how that ended. And it's just like,
well,
can I interest you in some Dark Empire?
I like when what's his name gets sucked up by in the Crystal Star. He just gets like sucked up into interdimensional galactic ooze into Waru. Is that Horthier in that?
Yeah, Hethrier.
Yeah,
I think.
Hethrier. Yeah, that's what it is.
But yeah. Anyways, Ton Fanon.
No, don't you cheat. I'm just joking.
Hour and a half deep, and we're halfway through the book.
We've gone deep into the Crystal Star, Children of the Jedi.
But really, do you think, based on previous discussions, the real question here is: at what point do you think Ton shits himself?
Oh.
Because this is apparently your area of expertise.
Well, I'd say probably to cover up the crash at one point, he probably did. Like right before he hopped in the water, just to throw the Imperial hounds off his scent trail. That would probably be my that would probably be what I would do.
Yeah.
Like I'd say he definitely pranked Face with that at one point. Like, you know what an upper decker is? I don't know the exact mechanisms of how it works in a Star Wars refresher. But it's basically when you poop in the upper part of the water reserve for a toilet. So I think there is a Legends version of that.
Okay. Yeah, well, so you just know the whole time that Ton is aware that he's going to die, and he's like writing that will or the letter to Face the entire time that Face is like, okay, no, we're rescuing you, we're getting you out of here. But
I know it's like a very like it's kind of funny if you think about it, because it's sad because he's being hauled on this speeder, but I just imagine him like on his belly, like texting with like his legs, like kicking and stuff, just like, just like relaxing and like Face like dragging his ass. But yeah, I just imagine like just like him like just bopping his head around, like sending a text. That's his last will.
Yeah. So Face, we kind of get a similar to Plagueis run through the forests and swamps after he kills Tenebris.
I was really wondering how you were going to. Unfortunately, unlike Plagueis, there's no naked guy taking a leak to see it.
No, he just gets back to his TIE Interceptor and flies back to Halmad. The whole base, or the whole squad, is assuming at this point that that both Face and Fanon are dead, and Wedge is talking about like what they're gonna have to do without that.
Wedge basically doesn't really care. Yeah,
and this is kind of when the plan comes together for the diplomatic meeting with Zinj, where Wedge is basically saying, okay, Face is kind of our impersonation guy, so without Face, how are we going to do this? We'll have to figure someone else out. But luckily, Face shows back up, and we get basically like an entire mental breakdown for the Wraiths, where Face is like blaming himself for Fanon dying, and Wedge has to like talk him out of it. And the same thing kind of happens later. It's a lesser extent, I think, than what he goes through later with Caston, as far as just like how he feels responsible for it.
I think he deals with Caston's a lot better.
Yeah, but the idea of like who's responsible for it, he deals with much worse later. But this right now is like, just emotionally wrecks him.
Yeah, I mean they're like best friends basically.
Yeah,
and they're both kind of seem to be loners, like Face is Fanon's like point of contact. Which is nice because they don't have to write a letter to any family members, but it's also pretty sad.
Yeah, because Face offers to Wedge, like, you kind of brought me out of this, so I'm going to do something for you. I'll write whatever letter Fanon needs for his family. And Wedge is like, no, well, that
dude, don't worry, he had no family.
This will make you feel better. No one loved him.
No one will miss him, but don't worry.
So in order to kind of raise everyone's spirits, Runt takes it upon himself to plan a dance. I think he convinces Wedge that it's going to be like a memorial service for Fanon, and there's like, nope, everybody dance.
Yeah, I kind of like that moment actually.
Yeah,
I thought it was nice, especially after what had happened.
But I'm just thinking of this now, but it was a surprise for everyone that it was going to be a dance, right?
Yeah,
but
someone didn't shower for sure.
Yeah, well, Jansen and Shala are the ones that tricked Face and Dia and got them dancing together. Mm-hmm. That kind of starts their relationship off. So when did they plan that? Did this opportunity just present itself?
Yeah, I think it was probably just like they did it well. It was just like chat. Like, okay, let's hook them up. You know, they want it. You know, weren't you ever in junior high, Corey?
We didn't have any of our classmates die in starfighter battles and then impromptu dances to memorialize them.
So you didn't go to junior high school?
No. It's not. Maybe it's just different in Ontario than
in goddamn upper Canadians without any stars. Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. It was kind of it was kind of a touching moment. I like Runt as a character as well.
Yeah, he finally makes some human jokes where he's like gonna kill people if they don't participate in the dance, which is always fun. And then Wedge is like, you know what, you did a good job with this. This is gonna be your job from now on.
It's like, yeah. And then there's like, they always say, don't do anything well because of the job. One thing I found was weird. They used so much goddamn paint and.
Yeah, they painted the ceiling.
They painted the entire ceiling. Goddamn, how did they do that?
Well, you know, the freighter they were robbing earlier, we never find out what most of the lots are they're taking. It's actually just paint. Paint and tie interceptors. That's all they take.
They paint it black too. Like, that takes multiple layers, dog.
They paint the ceiling, they paint their X-Wings, they paint their tie interceptor. They have
during a hyperspace flight.
The quick painting later to repaint back to the Wraith Squadron colors so that they don't shoot each other.
You know, these goddamn techs are so tired of this shit.
It's got to be the worst job.
They just like wreck everything, and they're like, "Good luck, boys. Be ready for next time."
Is it Cubber that would be responsible for that?
Cubber does most of the painting, yeah.
Because we got the Vratix or something.
Yeah, it was the Vratix for the Rogue
Squadron. He's got to do a mixture of Mod Podge and black paint, and then
let it dry for 12 hours, and then do a second layer. Do a shiny layer above hand. Also, the Rogues can have a starry night sky to look at.
And people are doing this like without anyone knowing who it was. Like, they talk. It's a really long hallway, considering how far Lara goes.
It seems really tall as well, because at some points they've got things like stacked. Like, they've got these like little cargo modules, and it's like they've got stairways going up to some of the second levels. So like, this was a goddamn undertaking. Like,
yeah, and it seems to happen in an afternoon.
Yeah.
But so they're going over their plan for infiltrating or going to meet Zinj as the pirates, and this is when Caston starts with his idea for writing a program that he can then splice into Iron Fist, and they'd be able to track him that way. So he brings it to Wedge privately first, and Wedge is like, "No, how do you know you're better than this guy?"
Later, like.
Yeah.
You've got 2 minutes this time.
Write the code. We'll do this eventually. And Cass is like, no, this is outrageous. And they have another meeting where they're all talking about what they're going to do. And Caston is like, well, actually, I think you're an idiot, Wedge, and goes off about how his plan is to do this thing. And everyone's like, no. And Wedge is like, why are you doing this now, buddy?
You're not going to Coruscant, basically. He's
No
like,
downtime for you. Back to painting ceilings.
Yeah. And then, of course, he sneaks on and ends up getting himself killed. Because the plan was good, but Wedge was right. Like, this isn't the time for it.
Yeah, like any chance of failure from that was not worth it.
Yeah.
And like they're going to get more than enough out of their association with Zinj, so just make the code, sit back and wait.
What's the name of the splicer again from Thrawn? The like savant, the New Republic splicer. Well, he starts off with Talon Card.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember.
G. What's his name again?
Yeah.
Gent. It's Gent. Yeah. This would have been a cool character for them to have Gent play. Obviously, like because it's similar, and obviously Gent had been, but I guess he wouldn't have been with the New Republic at this point. No. So never mind.
Thrawn is not for another year and a half.
Yeah, I forgot Gent wasn't already with the with the New Republic. He started with Talon.
But yeah, so
but he's a very Gent-like character because he's like very good at what he does, but he's very kiddish.
And I think I guess he's immature and kind of shitty.
Yeah,
but was Gent that? I thought Gent was just more of like a weird, more of a face.
Gent was kind of a
face or Fanon more than Caston.
Mm-hmm.
But so they're taking their shuttle Lara, which I got mixed up with Sungrass so many times when reading the book.
Yeah. I couldn't remember what the Nara was because they mentioned it by name a few times without reminding us that it's subtle. Yeah, but I do like that they keep it from last time because we see some cool action with it with the mech they make.
Lambdas get a lot done in the X-Wing series.
Yeah, do they ever?
Tycho with his targeting.
Yep.
Nara just shuttling people back and forth. They're the real unsung heroes of Wraith and Rogue Squadron.
True. You're not wrong, buddy. Plus, like, whenever they're in battle, like, they're described as being pretty deadly. They've got, like, rear-facing cannons and stuff.
Yeah, with Lavaril,
at one point, I think they mentioned that they're...
Yeah, because Lavisar was producing lambdas and that kind of... Or sentinels? Lambdas?
I think it was lambdas, but yeah, regardless, they're kind of like a big blast boat at that point.
Yeah, they were thinking about, like, oh, they've probably got some militarized versions of these with heavier armor and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that does come up.
Yeah.
But so with the meeting, we get Face on there, and then we'll talk about Dawn's side quest. But with the thing that happened at the end about like how Zinj was congratulating everyone on playing their parts well, my initial takeaway with that was that Zinj was on to them. Did you get that impression?
I had no idea. Like, I didn't even understand why they were wearing disguises and stuff. Because doesn't Melvar wear like some sort of disguise or something? Like, how am I imagining that? But yeah, no, I didn't really get it. Whether they were just maybe that's addressed in the next book, but because he doesn't really figure it out even after the loss of the Superstar Destroyer. Yeah. So.
Where, like, yeah, I don't think the Zinj side were wearing disguises, but it just kind of seemed at the end there, like, oh, they actually knew what was going on because there was the thing when they just got on where the stormtrooper that was kind of patting him down gets a bit too pushy with Cal, and Cal breaks his jaw or something.
Yeah. God damn it, Cal. Yeah.
And so like that was clearly just a test of them when that was fine, but the other stuff where it was like, okay, everyone played their part well. I was like, okay, does he know?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
But this is when Caston like sneaks onto the ship, ends up in that lab, sees the Taus, and as his first thought of like, why do I feel empathy for these things? Because he's just a shitty person.
Yeah.
And
one thing that's kind of like that's just a bad plan. I don't understand how the that how Zinj didn't figure out what was going on, because he should have been able to just look at the holo recordings and see him leaving the ship. Because he doesn't make the connection, or at least he doesn't say he makes the connection.
Yeah, that never comes up that like they would have had like full security cams on every part
they're in the middle of a hangar, and it's not the damaged hangar either. It's so.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, we don't need to finish. Let's just burn our copies. This is stupid.
Yep. What did you think about so he's trying to upload this program, he gets shot. It's not immediately clear to the reader that he's killed in a gunfight, but basically as long as we take Dia's word for it, or it is Dia, right? Who kills him?
Dia.
Yeah.
So basically, Zinj is like saying, "Okay, we found this guy. You should kill him for me." And Faye's like, "I don't know." And then Dia just goes and shoots him.
Yeah. We have to take her word for it that he was actually dead. I mean, I assume he was, but we don't get other confirmation, I don't think.
No, I don't. See, I was unclear on that, whether it was supposed to be a thing where like we're supposed to take her word for it, or if it's just supposed to be like we accept that this is a thing where she has to rationalize it some way, and they would all be dead regardless. Because it kind of plays into the whole wraiths are broken people, and like she's clearly just absolutely
rationalizing and
destroyed by it, and Faye kind of has to pull her out of it. But that
was a little out of left field for me.
Yeah, I think it was
even if I guess he is dead, she's really disrespecting his body or whatever because she like shoots it in the throat.
Yeah, well, she explicitly mentions that. Well, I guess we do get the confirmation later that because we get her internal monologue about her internal thoughts about it, where it's like,
so she definitely believes that he was dead at the very least. He probably was.
Where she was like, I just shot a guy who deserved better.
He didn't really. He was warned. Horrible. Like they tried to babysit him, and he's just like, got a secret compartment within the smuggler's compartment.
Yeah, like Face was saying, maybe I should have checked better, or I should have done a full sweep rather than just searching. And was like, no, this isn't on you.
Like he's like, you can't be babysitting other soldiers.
Yeah, because Face was trying to say this is all my fault, and was like, well, it's all your fault. What about my fault? What about Kasten's fault? What about like everyone's fault? Don't put this on yourself.
Yeah. Speaking of doo-doo, that crawl space probably stank if they had any sort of distance on that journey.
I don't think it was that far, but probably.
Well, there was at least because there's like there's a jump and then there's a second jump because
and
Zinj always does the redirection. Yeah,
Dia takes a whole nap.
Yeah,
when they're in transit too. So
he was pooping in there, big time, bud. Believe it.
So they can clone him.
Yeah, true. Genetic material left behind.
Yeah, so Zinj has recruited the Hawkbats as part of a bunch of pirates that are going to be part of the forward defense for their raid on Kuat, where they're going to be taking Razor's Kiss. But they get the information about it as if it's Coruscant or a New Republic world, where it's a bunch of Star Destroyers mixed with Mon Calamari cruisers. And Piggy kind of figures out with Wes and Wedge that actually, no, Face was right. They're going to Kuat. They're going to steal Super Star Destroyer.
Piggy's like, hold on a second. He opens up Empire at War, and he's like, Imperial Star Destroyer, 12 cost. Mon Calamari Cruiser, 12 cost.
Yeah, they get Lara as their new computer expert.
And she's pretty damn good at it.
Yeah, to like make a program to figure out like AI combat power values in Empire at War out of their TIE Fighter and X-Wing simulators. So she's like, oh yeah, I can make a rough approximation of all these fleets and confirm it's Kuat / Coruscant, or like if we need to convert this into Corellian stuff too, would you be able to do that? Because just need to mention Corellia. There was a mention of odds in this book.
Yeah,
that kind of subverted.
It was when they're, I think it was Face talking to, I think it was Face talking to Kasten. He was like, although they say Corellians don't care for odds, Antilles would never throw your life away or something like that, right?
Yeah. And there was another mention when Wedge was like thinking about Kel and Tyria and how he didn't have anything like that, where not that the real Wedge was unhappy, he was content but alone. Probably best if he kept it that way. He'd beaten the odds for so many years in which would, and he goes through that without even saying he'd beaten the odds, and he's a Corellian, so he doesn't really care about odds. But
what a scrub! We need Michael Stackpole back. Michael.
What are the odds of that happening though?
Not good. Even Corellians wouldn't take those.
So they start planning for their Kuat, for their Battle of Kuat rolls.
Mm-hmm.
We have ideally 3 groups, possibly just 2.
Yep.
Where we have the Hawkbats, which are Wedge, Dia, Kel, Face, Tyria, and Piggy. And
are they about to? Are they doing like a WWE like cell match or
and
something?
And in this corner, we have the Infiltrators. I have spelled it wrong on the page.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was a joke there or if you're just not a great speller.
I just wrote this while I was rereading the book. We had Lara, Shala, Dia, and everyone else would be with the race on Mon Ramon. But at that point, I think that's just Wes, right? Who else? What are we missing? Tyria? Nope, Tyria is in the Hawkbats.
Is Wedge definitely with the Hawkbats?
Yeah, he's explicitly mentioned because he's got to do the Ewok.
Oh, right. He doesn't have an X. He does not in his X-wing.
Yeah.
Right.
So Wedge, Dia, Kel, Face, Tyria, Piggy.
Where's Runt?
There's 6. Okay, Runt, Wes.
How could you forget my boy? Ho-ha Shekwash.
So 6 Hawkbats.
Yeah.
And I guess Dia is counted twice there. But
yeah.
But anyways, very few of the raids actually on Ramada. Oh, Min. There we go. The most forgettable raid.
What is wrong with you?
I just
Dude,
hate
Min has the prologue or the preview chapter in book 1.
Those are the best characters.
Yes, they are.
So I think he's actually next book is like Min, and I think it's Min is like the new face of the group.
Cool.
So we have a whole book of Min coming, I think.
Cool. I'm Min for that.
Oh. All right, thanks for watching, everyone. All right,
okay, so
bring us into Kuat?
Yeah, so they insert the team on the Razor. Is it Razor's Kiss, right? That's so there is a Super Star Destroyer under construction. There's some discussion earlier about whether or not it is or it isn't. And it's almost done, actually. It's being protected by, like a few dozen regular Star Destroyers.
Yeah, like the general Kuat Defense Forces, which turn into a couple dozen ISDs or just SDs.
Yeah. Even though later, the Essential Guide to Warfare gives them everything. But anyway, so they sneak on to that. The team is largely led by Shala, who's under her Hawkbats persona.
Yeah.
Who is said to be able to kill a Wookiee. And they successfully secure the bridge, and basically they start making their way off with the Super Star Destroyer. And then I think the Iron Fist shows up and the pirate fleet, and they're basically running cover for the ships.
They're kind of waiting until Razor's Kiss blows itself free of the of whatever's holding it, so that the defenses wouldn't start coming until later. So that's when Iron Fist jumps in as far as possible into the system.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable that they can run a ship with such a small crew.
Yeah, there's like 6 people on it, and it's kind of rationalized as like, oh, Zinj had paid off some of the people in charge, or one of the people in charge, and then no one else thought it was suspicious that they were evacuating the ship.
It's literally blasting away like the struts and stuff that are holding it to the station.
Yeah. The initial insertion crew was like 8 people.
Yeah. So I guess like those other 300,000 that would usually be there are just like...
They're unnecessary. That's the crews to put out the fires, as Zinj was later lamenting.
Well, I guess it would be like if you don't have real gunners. It's same with like the Falcon. You technically can control the weapons like from an automated system, but they're probably going to be like ass. I always remember for some reason there's a scene in Children of the Jedi, where Luke is approaching the what's it called? The Eye of Palpatine.
Hmm?
That's Children of the Jedi, right? Yeah, where he's approaching the Eye of Palpatine, and he says something about how like droid-controlled gunners are ass. But that one, that's his exact words. He's
No,
like,
that
"What the
sounds
hell?
like what Luke would say.
Droid-controlled gunners are goddamn ass. Emperor's black bones." And then basically, this one's not because it's being controlled by the mind. I think they call it,
Hmm.
which is like a central AI with the Jedi in it.
Hmm. So
Don't worry, we'll get there.
Iron Fist, like, I think there's 2 Star Destroyers that Iron Fist pretty explicitly just hammers to mostly to death.
I like that. It's just like running away, and it's just like there's just like burning husks in the background.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, they're still getting like slightly harassed by the fighters from them.
Yeah.
But
So they get away at first, but the rogues have kind of. This is some weird Star Wars shield magic bullshit, but the rogues have basically attached themselves to like the hull of the 2 ships.
yeah, so Shala had put the tracker on that Kasten had made, and then she made a real explosion where she faked her death so she could hide out in an escape pod where she took a nap.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, they had a plan where they were calling themselves the Parasites, where they'd go and try to shut down the shields from on the ship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, anyways, the Super Star Destroyers get away, but they recover them, or they find the location of them quickly, and they're fully attacked by like Solo Command. Well, it's like a third of Solo Command. It's mostly the Mon Ramonda and a few support vessels.
Yeah, we have a massive New Republic fleet of Mon Ramonda, Tedivium, the Nebulon B frigate, which is a training frigate.
Because then isn't there like a Crusader or something? But I don't think
there's a Marauder and a Quasar,
Marauder,
and that's it.
But I don't think the Marauder and the Quasar go, because we only hear of until the 4 fighter squadrons.
I think because if the Quasar were there,
rogues, the B wings, the A wings,
unless they're there and they're just not explicitly mentioned. But
yeah. I'm curious now.
But Han's plan is basically like stand in front of Iron Fist so it can't jump away.
Yeah, and then they're like, it's funny because I did a video on hyperspace before I finished the book, and at one point Zinj is like, if we try to jump through light speed, it'll destroy both of us, which doesn't really seem right to me.
Well, if you go with the 8,000 meter figure, it would kind of be like if you were to have something that was like, let's say, about 3,200 meters, or a little bit longer maybe, and there were some kind of giant battle platform, and if one person were to like, whichever one jumps to hyperspace to the other, it's probably going to shatter them both.
Right.
I don't know where that would happen though.
Yeah, and also
that
maybe
seems to be what Zinj is alluding
damage
to
as well.
Yeah, but that seems to be the kind of situation Zinj is alluding to. I don't know that we'd ever see that happen.
If we do this hyperspace jump, it'll somehow destroy the rest of our fleet back at Rancor base as well.
The debris will go fast enough.
But speaking of kind of shield BS, there is some kind of oddities in this. So it seems to be like, so the battle starts and the wraiths are launched and the 2 parasites come active. First is Shala becomes active first, and she's, I guess, under the shields of the Razor's Kiss, and she blows up the shield generator, I guess.
Yeah, it's kind of taking the whole deflector, the domes or the shield generators approach that is incorrect, but yeah.
I mean, it makes sense because I think she's supposed to be under the shield. So, but then she flies out through it. It's weird because Star Wars shields are supposed to protect against objects and lasers or energy, but you see ships flying through shields all the time when they shouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
Well,
with her, wasn't she inside the ship still, and then she gets the TIE fighter to leave?
Yeah,
and then
I think you're right.
And Piggy with he's like landing on the ship and kind of commandoing his way through.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The idea of a TIE interceptor being able to blow up, or whatever they're flying, being able to blow up, like with lasers, the shielding of a super star destroyer. I don't know.
Yeah, it just seems like it does seem like the shield generators would be a bit stronger than that, but
Yeah.
uh,
There's also a weird point earlier where it's like they talk about how a ship has its engines blow out. I don't know if you remember this. It
Yeah.
has its engines blow out, and they talk about how the shields don't work anymore. I guess it's like a car where like the engines provide a degree of power to the entire ship.
Wasn't it Mondo where they'd taken out the engines of the ship, or was it Iron Fist?
No, I'm thinking this happens with the Starfighter. I think earlier on, where
Oh.
they're like, there's a Starfighter that gets its engines shot out. I'll see if I can find the quote because I did say
Faces?
Maybe, and then they're like, yeah, so the shields don't work anymore. So I guess there's like, it's kind of like with a car, like you can kill the battery, but you can recharge it by driving around.
All that kinetic energy from the engines on a starship.
Yeah, let's see if I can find the quote, but yeah.
Yeah, they get the shields down, and Monda kind of they end up blowing up a bunch of the bridge stuff. So Razlin's dead, and Zinj has no one on the inside. But then Zinj luckily gets a call from one of the former Kuat crews. He's like, "Yeah, I'd rather you have it than the rebels blow it up." And then he just dies immediately, so it was entirely pointless.
Yeah. So they managed to. I do like how so once the shields are down, they basically just crush it with like B wings and X wings, and then they move on because so Piggy initially has problems, but he does get his starfighter repaired. He managed to disable the shields of or not totally, but he weakens the shields of the Iron Fist, but they can't quite kill it, and it does manage to escape.
Yeah, so Monda able to basically 2v1 Superstar Destroyers here. The 4 fighter squadrons pretty much do all the damage they need to blow the Razor's Kiss into half or into a bunch of tiny pieces. And can recover those pieces though. Those are recoverable.
Yeah.
But
I mean, quite a victory for the serious victory for the New Republic here, because they lose a few ships, but a few starfighters, but
they lose Captain Onama's share as well.
Yeah. Although to be fair, Zinj doesn't lose that much. Book just some starfighters because he had just captured the Superstar Destroyer. I mean, they do damage the Iron Fist, which it does seem like Zinj has it is a lot of effort for him to keep it active.
Yeah, it must have been a while, or at least a couple days or weeks between the explosion and the meeting, and he still didn't have a functional hangar. So
Yep. One thing I like throughout this is kind of off topic, but we kind of get hints that Leia's going to Hapes, because it's always talking about some diplomatic mission she's on.
Top secret mission that people are saying might have to do with taking down Zinj.
Yeah, she's really just going to meet a cutie pie, BF.
Trying to slide into a soldier's DMs.
I was reading through Legacy of the Force and I forgot that Jason decapitates Zolder.
Yeah. I always forget that Isolder ever comes up again after courtship. And
he actually comes up quite a bit because he comes up in pretty heavily in NJO, and then he's pretty prominent in Legacy of the Force as well.
Yeah, I've read pretty much everything he's in. It's just I always forget he's there. He's the least memorable Star Wars character.
It's I always forget that Tenel Ka only has one arm. I always forget that.
Does she ever get No, she doesn't get a prosthetic.
No, she never gets one, but it never addresses it.
Yeah.
Just like Dala only has one eye. She loses an eye, but half of the Fate of the Jedi stuff has her with 2 eyes. But then in the book, she explicitly is wearing an eye patch.
Yeah, that's a pretty easy thing to fix too.
Yeah.
Soontir doesn't do it for good reasons. I don't think we ever get Dala's reasons to not.
No. We don't. I don't think we ever get. I don't think we ever get. What's her name is for Tenelkov for not getting a new arm either.
I think we do, where it was just supposed to be a thing she's supposed to overcome.
Yeah,
I think it's in like Young Jedi Knights where she does.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure because I've read that. I'm pretty sure Jason cuts her arm off.
Or it's Jason's fault in some way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll be for our read through of Young Jedi Knights.
Dude, I'm pumped. I love those books. Those were like the first EU books I read. Yeah, probably. Well, maybe not first, but the ones I most have fond memories with, Shadow Academy and stuff. Awesome.
Yeah. I think they were in my middle school teacher's library as well.
Mm-hmm.
But speaking of Soontir, during the battle at at Kuat, I think it's still the Kuat
Wedge gets so triggered.
Yeah, Wedge as Ketch gets Soontir coming up to him because they put a filter basically on Wedge's communication, so he sounds like an Ewok, and
which is a practical joke at first, but kind of ends up being a real pain.
Yeah, so you get Wedge pretending to be an Ewok, flying with Tetran Cowell pretending to be Soontir Fel, and Soontir is talking about how he's like the best pilot in the galaxy, and Wedge makes a mention like, "Oh, I've heard someone else is the best pilot in the galaxy," and he's just like, "Oh, you mean Luke? Yeah, he's pretty good." And I think one of the other races like, "Oh, how about Wedge Antilles though?" And
he's like, "Lucky."
Yeah, luck incarnate, but he can't fly worth a damn. And Wedge is just pissed off the rest of the book. I want to know if my sister's okay, but more importantly, I can fly.
I gotta kill this bastard. Yeah.
He's clearly irredeemable.
Yeah.
I don't care how many pilots he shoots, but if he says I'm bad at this.
I do like how, on that note, I meant to mention this earlier, when they meet Solo Command for the first time, you do really get the sense that Wedge would be a much better commander than Han.
Yeah.
Like, much better.
Neither of them wants to do it, but Han accepted it because he had to. And
yeah, but Wedge is like, he's like, you're probably being pretty stupid about this. Han's like, oh shit, really?
Wait, should I not be attacking all those civilian targets just because we think they might be
Yeah.
But apparently Han is good enough at commanding to literally give a huge stat bonus to Von Ramonda. We should really give him a 90% shield bonus in Thrawn's Revenge, because that is just several minutes of direct pounding from Iron Fist. Oh god, that sounds horrible.
Military man pounded by large alpha male. I'm just gonna stop.
I mean, Iron Fist is itself just
military man pounded by Iron Fist. 2 minutes straight. Yikes.
Oh god. That's what Lara accidentally heard during a recording.
She's like, holy shit. Oh man. That's not good.
Yeah, so I think that's
pretty much all right. I'm gonna let him head out for next time. No,
we're pretty much at the end of the plot here.
Yeah, so that's basically it.
Go ahead.
Not much really has really changed since last time. Both sides have taken some losses, but they've managed to stymie the plans, at least, of Zinj, which is, pretty good.
I didn't actually consider the fact that nothing happens in this book.
Yeah, because Zinj doesn't really lose much that he didn't have.
Yeah.
Or that he had, sorry.
We lose Ton.
Yes.
And we lose Caston, but he wasn't there at the start either.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Got a few new TIE interceptors, but basically it. They lose some of the pilots, but no Rogue Squadron members, no. Wow, Boozy, I can hear you, old beer cans.
That was a Coke can.
Sure it was.
I'm not a fan of booze or beer. I drink hard liquor.
Like a man.
But
you mean synthetic hard liquor, synthetic Coruscant brandy?
Only calf, actually. I think
also
was there Tapcaf?
I don't think so. They go to Tapcaf places, but I don't think they use Tapcaf in this one or in the other one. So that's 3 books now if I'm right.
God, what are we doing? But I think
I
it's
don't know.
a Deveronian that replaces one of them. Yeah,
Yeah.
LSR Targon. And I
I was going.
guess no one else needs to come in because Lara was already Wraith 13.
Yeah. I was going through my notes just when I was looking for a quote, and I found one part that I really like. It's when they're all presenting their ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So is it Face or Fanon that's in charge of having one?
Face.
Hold on, let me find the quote here. But basically, Face is like talking, like Face has a fake. He's like joking with Wedge, or he's like screwing with Wedge, and he says his plan is to have like the squad pretend to be like a traveling circus or whatever.
Yeah.
Here's the quote. I've discovered that Kel has a pleasant tenor singing voice, and Runt is actually an accomplished mime, a skill that few know is widespread on his homeworld of Thakwa. By integrating modern holographic technology with traditional song and dance routines, we could capture the warlord's attention. And then he's cut off.
How about the idea you submitted to me? Oh, that one. Sarah's saying, aren't they in a bar Tapcaf at the start? I think it's explicitly a bar for that one, and then when they do the same to the Imperials. So no Tapcaf.
I mean, it's basically the same thing, but we're mostly looking for the use of the word, I think. Yeah.
It's only a good book if it mentions Tapcaf.
Because there is also a Tapcaf in Trusa Pakura. Remember where they get fight with the aliens?
When they get abducted by the Siruvi? Yeah. But
one thing I also wanted to mention, who is it that was there on Coruscant? That's Caston, right? Who he mentions he was like there on Coruscant, and it's very similar to a scene. Have you read Aftermath?
No.
Okay. Well, there's Aftermath also has a scene on Coruscant basically where like they're celebrating after the Death Star, and then the Imperials come and just like gun them down.
Yeah, it's the part of the scene they don't show with the DVDs when they're all celebrating.
The next edition, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Aftermath has a very similar scene. And like people are like fighting back with like rocks and shit, but
I mean, it stands to reason that Coruscant isn't liberated for a while after that in either one. Yeah. So there's definitely going to be some reprisals there.
Mm-hmm.
But
again, it kind of doesn't mesh well with what we learn in Wedge's Gamble, where it's like the Coruscanti like hate the New Republic. Yeah. I think they're coming to like rape and pillage.
Well, some of the lower level ones, maybe.
That's true.
Not the upper level ones. With a population of what, 3 trillion? There's probably
it varies depending on the book.
Of opinion.
Yeah, and then Coruscant goes through some real shit, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're useless.
Yeah, and then they get vonged.
Yep, they get some nice greenery that they didn't have before.
And then Abeloth comes, and the greenery becomes all like even nastier. She like makes the volcanoes happen.
This is why they needed to use more pesticides.
Yes, true. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really wanted to discuss, though.
Well, Zinj asked for the pieces of Razor's Kiss to be collected, and Face gets his face fixed. So those, I think, are the only 2 other things.
I do like the scene earlier on. The Face thing kind of reminded me of this, where Face sees Ton. I think Ton's talking to Shala or Dia, one of the 2, and then he's so depressed, and then like their kind of standard relationship of just like joking with each other breaks, and they like see that they actually care for each other. I thought that was a really nice scene.
Yeah, a lot of the like one-on-one scenes with the race having their heart-to-hearts are, I thought, really well done.
Yep, I agree.
Like Min starting to get a personality, going so hard to help Lara.
Yep. That's just because, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
So
let's have a moment of silence for Fanon. Right, everyone.
Okay. Thanks for being so respectful, guys.
Okay. Yeah, so... Yeah.
You can recover from your trauma in a book, which I think is important.
Should he have just gone for Kolto? Is that the solution to Ton Fanon's problems?
I imagine if Bacta doesn't work. Well, doesn't Kolto just basically make another form of Bacta?
Is that what I thought it was a different substance that just it's like the Betamax to VHS. Maybe it was better, but it just didn't have the same marketing.
Yeah, it seems
couldn't record
to be
for 2 hours or whatever.
Oh, it seems, according to the wiki, its significance was lost over time.
Okay, so they didn't care about it anymore.
This wonderful thing is just significance was lost over time.
Yeah, so if
that sucks.
If they just gone to Manon, they're like, hey, they might have to do a weird court case side quest.
Noir event though. He could have helped out.
Yeah. Oh, if you could just play as Noir Event and do that mission, he would have been a great.
Yeah. Well, I roleplay as Noir Event every time, but not just for that, for the entire bit. I don't use any lightsabers or anything. Don't upgrade my force powers.
It's all charisma and
I walk with
wisdom?
A slight limp.
With a wimp.
Slight
you bring
wimp.
Karth around. Are we going to do a Tapcaf episode on the plot of Knights of the Old Republic? That's what I think what the people want. So
maybe we'll do like
around hour 6, we have. This is when Karth says he doesn't want to talk about it, and
we all know that he does, and he will eventually.
Oh, and this is the moment where we're in the middle of a fight, and it looks like Bastila wants to speak. Speak to her now. No, she hates you now.
Despite the fact that we've got a galaxy-wide conspiracy to deal with, we should also try to track down Mission Veo's brother.
Which even she doesn't want to do.
Yeah.
So I guess you want to get into the... So if anyone has any questions, you want to put those in the chat, or if you want to email them, if you're listening to this afterwards in video or podcast form, you can send them to tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com. I've got a link in the description on my version here, as well as there will be one on Justin's version on Eckhart's Ladder, which you can subscribe to if you're not already, which I'm assuming everyone listening is. But that's tapcaftransmissions@gmail.com.
You almost didn't do it.
I was too busy thinking about whether or not it had the E after Tapcaf that I forgot about the S at the end. It doesn't, but our link for the first few episodes had the E, so someone out there has Tapcaf Transmissions and getting a bunch of email questions.
Unhappy.
Yeah.
They're clearly being bombarded just like we are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We had a couple of emails. The first was from Torin, who just basically said, I'll just read the whole thing. I wanted to mention going into your guys' Iron Fist episode that the storyline with Tom and Face and Fanon's death is as emotionally affected as I've been by a Star Wars book. It really hit me hard, especially since my biggest problem with Stackpole's X-Wing novels was that he uses the fake death trick way too much, which you also agreed, Corey. I felt like every one of those books died and then came back. Corin, Tycho, Gavin, Brewer, etc. I forgot about Gavin. That happens too when he's on the Ice Planet.
I forgot what it is.
I think Lujani was the only death that hit like that. She was murdered in her sleep. Pretty good.
Wow.
I was really like how Noah fixed Fanon. He was just a super broken guy that got killed, and he was still able to help Face in a realistic way those issues, not in a just, ta-da, Face is better now sort of way. I agree.
Yeah, I'll co-sign everything there.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we touched on a lot of that already, so I don't have too much more to add for that. But yeah,
just thanks for the great email. Agree completely.
Yeah.
But yeah, curious to hear you guys' questions and stuff for the next book.
One other email we got, which is a fairly common comment we've gotten that I probably should have mentioned at the start, but we are still trying to figure out stuff with like format and technical issues. Yeah. Last episode when I was editing the stuff out when Justin had his power outage, I did notice a lot more audio skips and stuff, so this time we are actually recording audio separately.
Bro, my Audacity crashed halfway through this.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, 55 minutes in. It might still be recording, but the timeline's not moving.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens there. I might be able to just take your audio from your video recording and put my audio. Are you recording on like OBS as well?
No.
No, you're not recording anything?
No.
Okay. Well, either way, we're doing our best. But our main concern, like, first we're focusing on getting like the live stream parts down, and then as we figure that out more, we'll be able to put a bit more into the audio versions. Just because this is like we're both fairly busy, so we only have like, on top of the reading the book, making our notes for the book, playing discussion topics, the actual stream itself.
Yeah.
It's taking some time for us to work out all the kinks there, but we're doing what we can. We're doing our best. Thanks for sticking with us through that.
Yeah.
But don't worry, we hear you.
We're not with the podcast network or anything. We're just learning.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to upgrade my microphone at some point, and we will kind of get some better ways to do this, because we know the audio quality is not perfect.
Yeah. I want a better way to record this than through Discord, because even just the noise gate kind of kills it. Where sometimes if like we're always on my Discord server, and
it's been really good on your end for this time. You haven't cut out once.
Yeah, you've cut out like once or twice earlier on, but it was, so far it's been much better than the earlier episodes. But relying on Discord servers is always going to be tricky. So we're going to try to find whatever ways we can get around that.
We'll talk to people. We both, I'm sure, know a lot of people who do podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
Everyone in the Star Wars community has a podcast, at least one.
Yeah. So this is my third one this week.
Yeah. This is my third one today, so.
Damn.
Screw it.
Yeah, well, this is my third one in the last hour, so...
Did you actually do another podcast this week?
No.
Okay.
I'm exclusive with this.
Yeah, me too.
Some people just take things more seriously.
Yeah.
But let's see.
I said me too, Corey. Why are you throwing shade at me?
Because it's too cozy over here.
Anything you want to? Let's. Anything that you're excited for? What's going on? Talk to me.
I'm still happy about the video on the Clone Wars doing that well, but
yeah. So Corey put out a really cool video. We'll see this a lot when we go to the Thrawn trilogy, but obviously the Clone Wars is mentioned in A New Hope, but just by name as like a sort of conflict. So the EU writers sometimes were like, let's try to do something with this, and it almost always was it was always completely wrong. Not their fault though, because what George decided was pretty wackadoo. But
yeah, even George didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. So Corey basically did a video cataloging how that was handled. It was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
That's like your biggest viral video on your second channel.
I think it's actually on both my channels. Like, it's the fastest any of them have gotten to that point, and it looks like it's probably going to pass anything on Loses as well.
Nice.
So,
when videos like that can easily pop off too.
Mm-hmm. Which is great. I just need to do. I was thinking before that the video about how different species can mate or not. Yeah, that was doing all right, and I thought, okay, maybe this is what my niche is going to be. I'm going to have to do a bunch of weird alien sex videos, but luckily it doesn't have to do that.
If you had gotten your picture from Tumblr or like DeviantArt or something for your thumbnail, then
I decided to go the picture of like baby root rather than weird over-sexualized, probably Twi'lek route. But,
well, that's on you, isn't it?
So, questions from the chat. What is your favorite ugly? I don't know that I have one. Do you have one, Justin?
Yeah, the Chudaki. Yeah.
Standard cop-out answer. I had a question about the last book. Wraith Squadron itself says outright that Ession, Saflor, and the other corporate sector worlds were independent.
I was hoping you wouldn't. I don't know.
So this is something we actually had to talk about a lot with making the CSA playable faction in Imperial Civil War. So we had to look through as much as we can for that. It seems like the timeline on that gets thrown around a bit. So they end up. I think the EGTW, the Essential Guide to Warfare thing, was a retcon to deal with that, and then it becoming part of Zinj's territory for all the financial empire stuff. So it was more of a ruling it or taking it over by proxy. That was my reading of it, but that was all I could really get from that. So really beyond that, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, same. I mean,
You're not up on the CSA lore.
No.
Oh,
I gotta go read like one of the old Han Solo books and get back to you.
the weird '90s attempt at Star Wars steampunk.
Yeah, we should cover those sometime. The Han Solo ones and the Lando.
Is that Adventures, the Han Solo Adventures, or
or no?
the
It's
Han Solo trilogy.
Trilogy. Yeah, it's the trilogy.
I always get those mixed. Like Han got so many books. What do you think of the change in POV in this book from the last? Did you miss Kel's POV at all? We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier, but
how did
Kel's
not that compelling? Really.
Yeah,
like he doesn't. He's like a tall and handsome. Like he's a pretty good fighter.
Yeah, like
he sees some action. Like he's not a
Worse Corrin was my opinion.
Sexier Corrin probably because they always talk about how like perfect and jacked he is.
Do we have a rating, like a ranking between Kel, Corrin, Face?
Oh yeah, it's Face in his prime is number 1, and then Kel.
Face at the end of this book when he gets
No, but okay. So I think Kel's slightly better than Face. Kel, Face, and then Corrin because Corrin's kind of short. Oh yeah, it is Adventures. Die Ghost was right. Sorry.
Yeah, so I like Face a lot more than Kel, so I was much happier having this much focus on Face and Lara rather than Kel.
Yeah,
I did kind of miss the Tyria scenes.
Yeah,
I didn't get much of Tyria, but I did prefer that. Now, like I said, I think it's Min next book that we focus on.
Yeah, Min's a fun character. Yeah, the whole death of a squad, super fun. Anything else you want to talk about though before we head out?
Yeah, I guess it's just book rankings and then that's it.
Okay.
After my big tease for this earlier, like,
why don't you go first then?
No, we need more build up. I was just kind of getting people excited again.
Why are you blue balling the chat here? Okay, this one's tough for me. I think I came in thinking it would be 3. It's hard because I like the first 5 books so far so much. I think I'm gonna put it above Wraith Squadron. So 5.
It's the new 5.
So Plagueis, Rogue Squadron, Back to War, Wedge's Gamble, Wraith Squadron, Truce Bakura, Krytos. But I like it's so hard because
So you're putting Wedge's Gamble, then Iron Fist, then Wraith Squadron. So
Krytos
is still bottom of the list for And I'm gonna.
Is this your new bottom?
No.
Believe
it or not, Krytos is going to stay at the bottom for probably a while.
I believe it.
So right now my rankings are Plagueis, Back to War, Rogue Squadron, Wedge's Gamble, Wraith Squadron, Truce Bakura, and Krytos.
Okay.
I'm actually putting Iron Fist at number 2.
Beautiful.
And I liked Iron Fist so much more. Like, Iron Fist made me like this trilogy more than the previous one enough that it recontextualized Wraith Squadron for me. And I'm actually putting Wraith Squadron from my 5th slot before it's like 6th now with Iron Fist at number 2. I'm actually putting it above Back to War as the new number 3. Can you believe it, ladies and gentlemen? Can you believe it? This is in no way a response to people being disappointed that we didn't like Wraith Squadron more. I want to make that clear. This is entirely my own volition. I have not been peer pressured into this. Plus,
we're comparing Wraith Squadron with X-Wing, with Rogue Squadron. So, like, what are we supposed to do here, For me, what I really like about this book is I love the character stuff, but there's a lot scenes that I think are really boring, like the stealing of the TIE interceptors, I just didn't like the action as much, if that makes sense. I really liked the characters,
Yeah.
but the action wasn't quite as good for me.
Yeah, I definitely agree,
As-
but I just enjoyed the character stuff that much more, and
Mhm.
a lot of the starfighter or the dogfighting. Well, it is better in the Rogue Squadron books. It's still one of the harder parts of the books for me to follow because I always have to like go back over it once or twice just to make sure I understand what's going on. So the fact that it kind of gets simplified to they killed some fighters and then some other stuff happened, like I'm okay with that, really.
Oh yeah, me too. It's just like for me, yeah. For example, I really like Wedge's Gamble because I think Coruscant's just such a cool place, and I think they make good use of the city. And this series gets a lot less world building, as I mentioned, I think, than the X-Wing, which is fine, but I don't know. I really like the X-Wing books. I really like these two, except for Krydos.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure as we go through a bunch of other stuff, like none of these are going to end up too far down the list.
Oh God, no.
Like except for Krytos, but
fuck that book.
But for now, I think I'm happy to put it where it is.
Yep.
All right. So, any other closing thoughts on Iron Fist?
In law school, we learned about Tarnopolsky's Velvet Glove in the Iron Fist, which is basically the idea that you should be ready to use action and power, but should first try to negotiate and use the Velvet Glove, but with the Iron Fist underneath it. I don't know. I think it's a cool name for a ship, and I like it much more for an Executor than a old Victory Star Destroyer.
I think that Victory Star Destroyer ended up with Thrawn.
Really?
Yeah. That was being discussed in the Discord yesterday. So,
what was the first name of the? Was it the
Iron?
Not the Rumble. The Brawl was that?
Yeah, Brawl.
Yeah, the Rumble.
It's all Super Smash Brothers terms. It was actually the Melee, and then people really liked that one, so they turned it into the Brawl. But then people weren't so big on that one, so they changed it again. But yeah,
Someone shut this guy up, please.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess that means the podcast is over because Justin doesn't want me to talk anymore. But
I don't want to talk anymore either.
Yeah, so we're 2.5 hours. Is this our longest one ever?
No, I think Plagueis was longer.
Okay.
I don't think this is particularly long. I do want to give a little bit of self-promo and say we'll be doing some beer.
Some Beerio Kart? You cut out a little bit there.
Some Beerio Kart, yeah. Do you know what that is?
I'm going to say no, so you have to explain it.
So you play Mario Kart, and I'm streaming it on X2. You play Mario Kart, and we play the N64 version. And before you finish, so we do it, before you finish the race, you have to drink your drink, but you can only drink while stopped. So basically, it's like you're driving, you pull over to the side of the road, you got to drink your drink, keep going, and yeah, you just do that. It's fun.
Nice. And is there somewhere people can see that?
Yeah, my second channel, X2. ECKSTOO.
Oh, you're not twitching that anymore?
Nah.
Oh, sad times.
I did also, on a personal note, I finished, as I mentioned, Fate of the Jedi. So now all I've got left is Crucible.
Then you're just done Star Wars.
Yeah, that's it.
So what are you?
On the Wikipedia page, there's nothing left after that.
So what's your job gonna be after that?
I'm probably just gonna kill myself.
Oh, damn. All right. So
all right, guys.
Tune in on Thursday the 19th for our next episode, where I'm going to be joined by someone to talk about.
Maybe.
No, he's busy apparently.
Oh, yeah.
To talk about X-Wing Solo Command. It'll still be streamed on Eckhart's Ladder. That's youtube.com/Eckhart'sLadder /live.https://
All right, guys. Have a great night.
All right. Yeah.
Until next time when we discuss Solo Command, have a great night. May the Force be with you.
Bye, everyone. Unless you don't believe in the Force.
Well,
that was something I did want to talk about, but Too late now. Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye-bye.